All right, hey guys, how you doing? We are live. I'm gonna be getting this all set up, so just give me a second here. Hey guys, 1 second. Yo, what's up? I decided to start the stream, so we're gonna be going over a couple things today. And start screen share. All right, and then add to stage. Okay, so we're going to be reviewing Sinner in the Hands of an Angry God today, along with maybe a Paul Washer stream or whatever you guys kind of are in the mood for. Oh, I was already planning on live streaming Puffer. I was already planning on doing that. There we go. So I was thinking doing this, maybe Samuel Farag today. But we'll see. We'll see, guys. We'll see what everyone's in the mood for, because I'm kind of open to anything. So we're gonna.
I know what you're thinking.
Here's another a couple weeks ago. He had a conversation. I think we might go over.
It was incredibly easy to start. It took me about an hour.
Why am I reading Calvinist slob? I wanted to show people it, but we might react to Samuel Farag and see if he, since that seems to be the hot topic right now. Coptic Orthodoxy versus Eastern Orthodoxy. But yeah, we'll be going over it, guys. Whatever you guys are interested in, we'll go over. So I'm not particularly set on any one position. So that being said, let's get right into it. I'm trying to test this and see what works. That's fine. It's still we're still just display the live chat. There we go. And I think we're just gonna do. No, we're not gonna do that. It's going to take me some time just to figure this out, guys, so just give me a second. There we go. Why are you reacting to Calvinist slop? Because that's what I used to grow up with. Though I'm considering maybe doing a Paul Washer stream where we just listen to Paul Washer. But we'll see, guys. We'll see. Guaranteed forgiveness in Christ. Interesting.
So they were in the Coptic Orthodox Church. So the Coptic Orthodox Church is part of the Oriental Orthodox Church, which is actually separate from the Eastern Orthodox Church, though their practices are very similar.
I forgot. I gotta get this set up too. It won't take me a second. There we go. Gotta add a goal. There we go. There we go. Okay. Start the goal. Come on. JP Uncut is live. Yeah, but do I really want to react to him? That's the real question.
They do have some distinction, and there are some differences to the point that they are.
If there's anything interesting, if there's a clip that you would want me to react to from him specifically, then maybe an argument he makes, then we can analyze that. But I'm not interested in. Okay.
Actually separated, but they are very similar. So my parents were in the Coptic Orthodox Church. So what they decided to do was to reach out to different monasteries and ask for prayers for their situation. And a monk had replied back and actually said, "You're going to have, these children, and these are the names you are to name these children." And lo and behold, my mom became pregnant. Even though I wanted to become a priest, but I did serve in the church. So I served, but it was a burden, and you really felt like you had to earn your salvation. But as I was reading God's word, saw that there were many conflicts in what the church was actually officially teaching versus what does the Bible say. One of the big things was their attitude with the veneration of saints. You don't see anywhere where you see we're encouraged to ever ask for the intercession of saints who have passed away. That's
It's just not true. Again, in the scriptures, they ask the prophets to intercede on their behalf all the time. In fact, the people that were watching Christ when he was crucified even speculated that that's who he was talking to. Is he talking to Elijah? Is he asking a lot? Why would they assume that? Well, the assumption would be is that that's a common practice. Why would the only reason someone would speculate about that is if it was a practice that was commonplace amongst Jewish people.
It's not seen in all of Scripture from Genesis to Revelation. You don't see that at all. So that led me down to a journey of questioning the different things that the church was practicing that did not line up with Scripture. And then I met my wife, who also grew up in the Coptic Orthodox Church, who also was questioning their practices. And we were living in New Jersey at the time, and eventually moved to Texas, where we started hearing the gospel message. And within about 3 months of hearing the gospel message and reading God's word, realized that I was a liar for calling myself a Christian for the past 32 years, thinking that I was a Christian, that I was really just living for myself truly. And that really what I needed to do was repent and believe. So the Lord opened my eyes so I could see the truth, and I repented.
So this is a thing that you notice with a lot of Coptics is that it's constantly this like reaffirming fallacy. Like I gotta affirm myself. I gotta affirm my beliefs. And I gotta feel better about my decision making. It's like I don't constantly have to just I don't constantly have to say preface my previous beliefs. I say I believed this at one point, felt like I was wrong, and I moved on. But I don't it's not part of a testimonial, really. I don't go around testifying to what like what these things. Someone asks, I'll answer, but it's like there's this constant need to like get to have other people affirm this, right? It's a very weird way of engaging.
And believed and put my faith in him, and that completely changed the trajectory of my life. I was working in graphic design and marketing and about to go for my MBA, and that shifted my change to going to seminary, because growing up and spending 32 years in the Coptic Orthodox Church, you need to really rewire your mind to understand things in a biblical perspective. You got to really change that worldview.
So he admits to basically propagandizing himself. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, like, he just admits it. He admits to propagandizing himself, which is hilarious to me because that's just not the way that we normally would work. I think we will do, you know what? Let's do this. We'll review the Jim Bob debate, because this frog is going to bore me to death. So maybe I'll edit the stream name. There we go. We're going to change the debate name. We're going to change it to...
He's used distasteful, and they took umbrage at that. And that ended up torpedoing that relationship.
Okay, so let's do this.
A real question.
So yeah, we do have some real ones here.
Rational. What does it mean to be reasonable or rational?
So we're going to go over this today, guys. I think that this will be fun. I really do. I think this will be fun to go over. I haven't reviewed a debate in a long time, and I think Jim Bob is a smart guy, so I think it'll be fun to review his arguments and see if there's anywhere that I would make some changes or maybe do some things differently. So we'll do that. And then if anyone wants to call in, the call-in link is in the description below for both just a voice call and for a panel. So if you want to join the panel, there's one link, and if you want to just do a voice call, there is another link. So we're going to make that smaller. There we go. And maybe shrink that just a bit. There we go. So let's get going.
It's based on or in accordance with reason or logic. In order to reason that the belief in God is a rational belief or a reasonable belief, I will be using a very simple argument for God. And by God, I mean a necessary, unchanging, transcendental mind. But before I present that argument, it's important that we lay out a whole plethora of things we need to first assume before we can even make arguments or inquire about whether or not a belief is rational. We have to assume a mind exists, both my mind and Ron's, and that they're particular minds and they're not the same minds. You also have to assume some type of ontology of the mind. If my opponent assumes that a mind is merely a physical apparatus identical to the brain, I'm not sure he can reason at all. Minds which are capable of evaluating and appraising propositions, we have to assume that the external world and its regularity, with which we couldn't do induction, has to maintain. We have to
Orthodox Nicholai said, did you see JP brought in that schismatic priest to critique Jay and the Ortho Bros? Yeah, but who cares what a schismatic priest has to say about anything? At the end of the day, who cares what JP does? If JP wants to play fast and loose with this kind of stuff, he's just revealing his cards that he's not a good faith interlocutor. Like if he wants a good faith if he wants good faith engagements, he will disassociate with the people that keep on making a mockery of our monastic traditions. He will engage with us on our own ground and not insist that everybody join his like micro stream, right? I'm not saying that I even have big numbers, but he's insisting that everybody come in because it's a clout chasing operation, right? And again, he says, keep my name out of your mouth or I'm going to blackmail you with like the bad cuss word that you said one time. And it's like, you know, at this point, I just don't care. He's welcome to jump in any point in my, I do open call-ins. I do open panels. And I do them for a reason. So actually, I just realized I have not shared. JP himself said he wants conflict. Well, I mean, if he wants conflict, then he's welcome to try and engage in it. But so far, I haven't seen anything from these guys that suggests that they're good faith interlocutors. So, you know what I mean? So, like, why should I engage with that? You know? We'll do this. And we're gonna move that down there. There we go. Just trying to organize the screen a little bit, guys. So yeah, I what do I care what JP says? Oscar, OZ, how you guys doing? Orthodox Nicholas, Chris, Curb, Stomp, all of you guys, thank you. We're gonna be sharing the link to the stream here in a second. I forgot that I haven't even shared the link yet. So I gotta see, is there a way to do that from copy link? Okay, there we go. So we're gonna go to X. We're gonna share, and guys, share the link for the call-in link on all of the different platforms. Here we go. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna send a panel link as well on X. Here. That's not what I wanted to do. So we're gonna do this, guys, and we're gonna get this going. I just didn't have, like, I was in Cleve stream, but I just don't have any patience for more of Samuel Farag. He doesn't really provide anything that I would consider interesting enough to share. So we're gonna go over Jim Bob today. I think that's what we'll do. That'll be fun. So there we go. Tag anyone you know. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Black, and I don't have a problem with you getting frustrated with Matt Slick. That guy is insufferable. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I normally, like I said, I don't go around saying that kind of stuff. But the fact that they're trying to blackmail me with it is just classic leftist style cancel culture. It's ridiculous. Literally, one dude, after conceding almost every point, kept moving the goalposts on Intercession of the States in JP's chat. Whenever they can't address your replies, they just disappear. I know. Yeah, they just magically vanish. Sam Farag is debating Craig Driggley at my church this Sunday. Is he? Are they debating in person? I don't know. That's exactly how I feel in Cleve stream. Yeah, I can't do it with Sam Farag anymore. He is not, in my opinion, he's just not an honest interlocutor. He just isn't. He's not an honest interlocutor, so why am I giving him my time of day? He is debating you. Are they going to stream it? I thought he backed out. I heard that he had backed out. I didn't know that, but let's continue.
To assume that knowledge and truth exists. We have to assume information and meaning exists. We have to assume universals and particulars exist in order to speak in an intelligible way about the world and ourselves. The reason I bring these up is because we don't determine these things are rational, but we rather assume these things in order to do subsequent analysis of what's rational. These things have to be first assumed and in place. But without God, can these things be in place? Is there any reason to believe in these things without God? I don't think so. In other words, you have to first believe in these things, then you can investigate. Keep in mind, all of the items listed are not found as matter. They're not empirically verified. We don't do any tests on them. They are not determined using measurements or empiricism or science, which for the most part, an anti-God belief is holding to as their epistemology. If we ask, well, what is a reasonable belief? They might say something we can test, something we can look at, something we can hold, something we can smell and eat. Well, that's not the case for them either. Being that logic itself is listed in the definition of rational and as the arbiter for determining whether something is rational or not, including beliefs, it follows that we are holding logic to be universal. That is the status of logic. That is to say, the laws of thought are universal. By universal, I mean it applies to all potential circumstances. I would argue that logic, specifically the classical laws of logic, are absolute and universal, unchanging, and not dependent on human opinion or convention. I would also argue that the laws of logic are conceptual and abstract, hence my argument tonight. The laws of logic are universal and conceptual. I think my opponent will agree with that. What do we know about concepts? Concepts are mind dependent. They are associated.
Correct. And I think so. Jim Bob is going with his classic route of critiquing that the atheist has no means to ground any of these categories in their own worldview. So he's basically attacking them. And then what is he going to say? Is he's going to say, this is my prediction. Jim Bob is essentially going to say, hey, the atheist can't ground these things. But from a Christian, we can, because if all these things are mind dependent, then there must be a foundation, a mind, a divine mind, that we can uh, gain these from, right? Like the knowledge of these things must be imparted to us from another mind. Chris said Jim Bob ran circles around this guy last time they debated. I almost felt bad for him. I mean, I almost feel bad for these guys as well, but they just, the problem is that there's so much pride involved in all of that, and so you just can't really consistently you really can't consistently hold them to anything. Let's add. I forgot to do a goal, guys. Let's do a goal. There we go. Someone said, why is modern day debate so obsessed with Andrew? Andrew is their LeBron at this point. He's the MDD GOAT. Well, that's because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. MDD gets to host all of these events, and it makes them a lot of money and brings a lot of eyes to him. And Andrew gets the clip farming. So it's a mutually beneficial event. And by Andrew promoting a third-party platform, right, by promoting that and not just his own stuff, which is the Crucible, he can say, listen, there's a third party group that you guys can debate on, and they're not going to take sides, right? But in reality, it's kind of a trap because it convinces people that they're going to be able to appeal to the moderator whenever Andrew's being unreasonable. But the reality is the MDD is not against Andrew. They're not necessarily pro Andrew, but they're definitely not against it. So go back to the farm. Yank, leave. Yank. Guess I'm a Yank. Leave. Dude, that's not an insult, by the way. I know that like Southerners like to think that, oh, if I call him a Yankee, I'm gonna be super offended. No person who is from the North, Minnesota, Canada, wherever you guys call Yankees, whoever you guys categorize as Yankee, no one cares. Like, it's not an insult. Leave debating to the real ones. Okay, well then you'd be fine and be able to debate myself then, huh? Are you comfortable doing that? I have a feeling that you wouldn't be. All right, guys, go ahead real quick and share the stream. We're going to be reviewing this atheist. And guys, share the stream precisely because I would love to have some atheists call in today, or I would love to have a discussion with really anybody. The Baptists that I've been battling on the timeline recently. Share the stream, do all that stuff. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get some more drinks because my throat is very parched and I'm going to be talking. I tried. ... No, that's fine. Andrew was big for getting me into Orthodoxy, to be honest. Yeah. Andrew had a lot of good influence on that stuff. So I'll be right back, guys. Just one second. All right. Let's see here. Somebody says, I'm not American Yellow Fever kid. Okay, sure, whatever. I'm not particularly offended. You think if you think you're gonna like enrage me through casual like racism or something like that, you're not going to. I don't care. Yes, I find Asian women attractive. Shoot me. I married one. Oh no, you took the mask off. Now I'm going to lose my entire audience. Sure, dude. So edgy, yeah. Oh, where's Arrow been? I don't know. Arrow, he's shown up a couple times. Yo, Brooke Durham, are you Theist Brooks? Yeah, I have no idea. He can call in. We have the call-in link here. I'll even send it. I'll even send it in chat for you. I'll be very nice. You can call in. There you go. All right, let's listen to what the opening statement from Dr. Ron Garrett is going to be.
Associated with the mind. There is no concept we can refer to without assuming a mind. The problem is with Ron's view is that concepts themselves, being that they're based in minds, when he points to the laws of logic and they are universal, he can't point to any particular mind to ground them, to justify the laws of logic themselves. They can't be grounded in my mind only. They can't be grounded in just Ron's mind. We are particulars. So what type of mind would ground a universal, unchanging, invariant concepts like the laws?
It's exactly where I thought Jim Bob was going to go. He's doing a good job so far.
So the three laws of thought, well, I would argue a divine mind would do that job. How do we ground the laws of logic? If they are universal and conceptual, we cannot ground them in, like I said, Ron's mind or my mind. They must be grounded in an unchanging mind. If I hold God as an unchanging mind, a transcendental mind, and the laws of logic are in fact transcendental, you don't find them in nature at all, but we assume that they exist. They have some type of ontic. Then I have a perfectly good reason to believe in God, if God is merely the holder of the laws of logic as a mind. My opponent not only has to deal with my argument, but he also must provide a standard or criterion to call a belief reasonable himself. So if he says God is an unreasonable position or an unreasonable belief, he has to tell me what constitutes a reasonable belief and how it is that God is outside of that criterion. So I'm interested to hear his criterion. By what standard does Ron use to determine a belief itself is reasonable or not? I bet I could find a couple of things Ron believes in that doesn't meet his own criterion. In addition to that, keep in mind, we're debating tonight. We are assuming all of the things listed in my opener, but we're assuming first and foremost that we have a direction toward truth, that we're actually capable through debate and dialogue to gear ourselves in a direction toward truth. However, without God, what is the direction toward? From Ron's perspective, I argue that a direction toward truth would be a direction toward God. That would be the purpose of pursuing truth, is to know God, the grounding of all truth. From Ron's perspective, there's actually no reason to be here at all. There's absolutely no reason. Why? Because it's completely teleological. There's no purpose. There's no direction. There's no reason. There's no reason to be here. There's no reason to pursue the truth. There's no reason to hold.
I think we're only going to review the openers because I do think we might be doing some politics today, guys. We might be reviewing some politics from the Orthodox sphere, coming from Real Ben Michael, who has been on a bender recently, and I agree with some of what he's saying, but there are some things that I would say are more nuanced. So
True beliefs. There's no reason to abandon false beliefs. It would be just like a useless sort of play that we're doing here, right? And I get a number of people to concede to this position that they admit right off the bat, yeah, I have no purpose to be here. There really is no purpose to pursue truth. I can't even tell you why you should abandon a false belief, whether it's God or anything else. Go ahead and believe what you believe. Furthermore, Ron might take the position that his mind, right? Because when we talk about what's reasonable, we have to actually assume a mind exists. Ron can't ground and determine what a mind is. He has to say it's a brain. Not only a brain, but he has to say that it's a brain that's completely deterministic, that it just unfolds based on chemistry and neurology. It's just doing a thing. That means that if that's the case, then all beliefs are determined epiphenomenal effects of a brain. That means his brain producing an outcome and my brain producing an outcome are on the same level. They're on the same ground. There is no more reasonable belief or less reasonable belief. There's just percolating brains doing stuff. That's all there is, right? Just action, matter in motion, matter in motion. So I don't know how a person who holds the belief, absent God, would probably reduce to pure matter in motion, right? Determinist.
which leads them to absurdity. And that's the key. Why is it more reasonable to believe in God? Because to not believe in God leads you to absurd conclusions. Your worldview becomes an absurdity, and to be absurd is not what most people live their day-to-day lives with. No one assumes they live in an absurd world. We don't assume that all of our actions are meaningless. We don't assume that. We assume that life has meaning. Ancient churchianity, Jim Bob does not behave as a Christian. Okay, nice opinion, bro. Do you want to call in and discuss that? I guess there's a call-in link. But saying Jim Bob doesn't behave as a Christian, I mean, by what standard are you holding him to? All right. Let's focus more on his arguments.
Matter in motion. How could Ron make a distinction between a reasonable belief and a false belief if matter itself is all identical, right? It's all just particular, clusters of things happening. Well, he really can't. So what I'm looking for tonight is one, I want him to contend with my argument, given the status of truth, given the status of knowledge, given the status of the laws of logic being conceptual and universal. I want to know from his view, being that he has to appeal to logic to determine whether a belief is rational or not. Why does he believe in logic? I mean, that's a fair question. Why would you believe in logic? I would hold that his belief in logic is just as much a leap in his worldview as he thinks my leap to believe in God is. So there's going to be a number of other things that Ron affirms the belief in that won't meet his criterion. And with that, I'll see the rest of my time.
His pride is a dead giveaway. You can read his mind. You know he's prideful.
All right. And I'm resetting the timer here and ready when you are.
Okay, so I actually prepared an opening based on an opening that you gave for a previous debate that you did on a similar topic. And the opening that you gave here was fairly similar to that, but different in some ways that are going to make some of my script actually not relevant. So I'm going to have to wing it a little bit, but let's see how far I get. So I found often that when people disagree about things, it turns out that what they're really disagreeing about is the definitions of words. And once you get past that, it turns out they actually agree on a lot of the substantial stuff. And I'm actually glad that you changed your opening in some of the ways that you did, because I think.
Did he say something that offended you? Well, that's the key question, is that why do I care if you're offended? I mean, like, let's be real. Why do I care if you're offended? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Okay, Jim Bob tells people to go to church. Jim Bob tells people they need to have a relationship with Christ. Jim Bob tells people that they can be healed in Christ's church, that there's repentance, that we should care about liturgy. He cares about his family. He's a family man. What do you want from him? Love is kind. That doesn't follow at all. Niceness is not a virtue per se. Was it nice of God to do all sorts of things in the Old Testament? Not necessarily. One could reasonably say that it wasn't very nice. Was Jesus nice when he called the Pharisees a brood of vipers, or the Sadducees? I can't remember if it was Sadducees or Pharisees. Was it nice when Jesus did all sorts of things, like whipping the changers in the temple? Of course not. Jim Bob says people are idiots. Some people are idiots. Yes. That's a truth. That's a truism. Hopcrop says, show me the commandment, thou shalt not be rude, anywhere in the scriptures or the liturgy of the canon, please. You won't find it. They won't. You can't find it. They don't. Jim Bob admits that he's not as smart as some of the other guys in this field. He says he's not as smart as people like Jay and things like that. Jim Bob calls out lying and heresy, and you say he's rude. He should just sit there and not say anything because it's too rude. Jesus was not like Jim Bob. Okay. Jesus wasn't like anybody, though. Right now, you're just moralizing. Do you have an actual argument?
We're actually going to agree on more than I expected that we would. But I don't think we're going to agree on everything. And so I think it's reasonable if we start out making sure that we agree on the definitions. If we're going to talk.
Someone says, thou shalt pretend to like people you find morally objectable. Yeah, I know, right? Like, 1 Corinthians 13, that's not really what that's saying, but okay. And that's to fellow Christians, by the way. All throughout the Old Testament and the early church fathers, they constantly combat heretics in not so nice of ways. St. Nicholas, for example, slapped Arius. Was that kind? Was that kind? Ancient churchianity, was that kind? I don't know why we're talking about I don't know why we're talking about Jim Bob specifically. If you have a problem with Jim Bob's debate style, that's on you. You're more than welcome to call into the stream and air your grievance, and we can debate it. But just derailing the chat here, is kind of useless at this point.
Talk about whether belief in God is reasonable, that we start out by agreeing on the definitions of the words God and reasonable, because I don't think that we do. I'm going to start with God. You defined God. So in your previous talk, you defined God as a necessary, universal, and absolute mind. But this time you changed that definition and you said it was a necessary, unchanging, transcendental mind. So I'm not quite sure
I think that's
what
about
your
the
actual
same
definition
thing.
of God is, but that's neither here nor there, because neither.
That's like the same thing. That is literally the same thing. Like, there's no meaningful distinction between that and what Jim Bob just said. Like, at all. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy. What does it say in the Greek?
This is what I think of when I hear the word God, especially when it's spelled with a capital G. When I think of capital G God, I think of some kind of deity, which is kind of sort of similar to a necessary, universal, absolute mind, or a, let me make sure I get the words right here, necessary, unchanging, transcendental mind. But that's not what the word, it's kind of like that, but it's not quite the same. And I think the differences are important. I happen to know that you're an Orthodox Christian, and when I hear an Orthodox Christian say the word God, what naturally comes to my mind is not a necessary, universal, absolute, transcendental mind, but Jesus and the Bible and the Catechism and parting the Red Sea and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay. Why can a mind not do that? Why is God incapable of doing that? Jim Bob didn't say that God isn't capable of not doing this. So Dr. Ron is just kind of, it's a category error that he's making. He's simply saying, well, because God is that and Jesus is also God, that suddenly means that. This is just a bad understanding of our theology.
But I don't want to knock down a straw man, so I'm going to do my best to engage with your argument as you've presented it. So let's look at that argument. And I was going to say that the position that you were defending, because this is what you did last time, is actually stronger than your brief. But you didn't do that, so I'm going to have to skip this. I'm just going to say quickly what I was going to say, because you did this last time. You seem to me to be defending the position that God actually exists, which is fine, but you don't actually have to do that. You're making things harder on yourself by trying to prove that God actually exists, because you don't have to prove the truth of a proposition in order to defend that believing that proposition is reasonable. So I want to give you some examples.
Is it true St. John Chrysostom called promiscuous women whores, or is that an AI translation? He was the equivalent of what that term would be. Yes. Should Athanasius have been nicer to the Arians, or are you just more pious than Athanasius? This is just Westernism in a patristic way. It's just modern. It's modernity. It's not even Westernism. It's modern. It's modernity, because you get this with all kinds of people. Niceness is their religion. Churchianity. Listen, you make arguments, or and don't spam quotes from the scriptures in my chat, because I would prefer you actually defend your arguments and explain how these apply. How does those apply to Jim Bob? Because that's going to the Corinthians, who are Christians, and it's telling them how they should treat one another. Jim Bob is not talking to a Christian right now. He's talking to an atheist.
I brought some props tonight. So I got some steel rings here. And I think it's reasonable for me to believe that these steel rings are solid objects, despite the fact that I can prove to you that they're not. Now, that was obviously just a trick. But there's actually a serious point here. All the things we call solid objects, including these rings and the chair that I'm sitting in and my body and so on, aren't really solid. All of these things are made of atoms, and atoms are mostly empty space. The reason these objects
Solid isn't solid, guys, because, by the way, atom theory isn't proven. I just want to point this out to everybody. Like, atom theory, like the atoms as a theory is not proven. No, we have never. No one has ever proven that atoms exist. We've never seen an atom. It's all theorized. I'm not saying they don't exist, but saying it's mostly empty space. No one has seen an atom. Nobody. Zero. Nada. Zilch. No one has seen an atom.
objects normally
Technically, no one's even seen DNA in the way that it's often depicted either.
can't go through each other is not because they're really solid, but because there are electrons on the outside of all these atoms, and electrons repel each other. But it's still reasonable to believe that these things are solid, even though they really aren't. If you try to walk through a brick wall, you will fail, despite the fact that both you and the wall are mostly empty space. I'll give you another example. At the core of modern science are two theories, quantum mechanics and general relativity. Both of these theories are established as true by overwhelming experimental evidence, and yet at least one of them must be wrong because they are
What did you just say?
mathematically established as core of modern science are two theories, quantum mechanics and general relativity. Both of these theories are established as true by overwhelming experimental evidence, and yet
general relativity is not proven by overwhelming scientific evidence, and neither is quantum mechanics. They're just a bunch of scribblings on a drawing on a whiteboard, and people say, see, the math works. That's not actually evidence, by the way. That's not proof of anything. That's not a scientific experience. It's not even science. Quantum mechanics and general relativity and a lot of these theories are just pure abstraction. They're just abstracted thoughts on a board. And they say, well, because the math works, it must be true. Is it true Ben Michael's going to debate Nick Fuentes soon? I haven't heard that, but I imagine Ben will probably crush Fuentes because I think Ben is much more consistent than Fuentes. That being said, Fuentes is a very good rhetorician. Very good rhetorician. And I also think that they agree more than they disagree when it comes to certain essential issues. Frankly, I would love to debate Ben Michael, frankly, or Ben Luigi, as some of you guys would know him. I would love to debate Luigi because I'm a political pragmatist, as I just released in my most recent video. So, they are theories after all. That is true. Cremsicle VT.
at least one of them must be wrong because they are mathematically incompatible with each other. It is logically impossible for them both.
Churchianity. I'm going to give you one chance. Is he a Christian? Yes, he's an Orthodox Christian. You can disagree if Orthodox are Christians or not. It's irrelevant. I would like you to make an actual argument. I'd like you to make an actual argument and not just make these claims and then spit a bunch of verses out there to try and back your claims. I'd like you to make an actual argument or call in. Okay? It's in the description of the video. In the description of my video, this little thing right here, in my video, you can go get in the description, you can click the link, you can call in.
To be actually true, but it's still reasonable, given our current knowledge, to believe that they are both true. And notice that I just hedged with given our current knowledge, and that is actually important. If a parent tells their 6-year-old child that Santa Claus is real, then I would say that it's reasonable for that child to believe it, because I think it's reasonable for a 6-year-old child to believe that their parents are trustworthy sources of information. And this matter of trustworthiness lets me give you an example in the opposite direction, too.
This is really, really bad argumentation from Dr. Ron. I mean, just really bad. Are you Eastern Orthodox? Is it, you say, is it relevant what makes you a Christian? Yeah, it is relevant. I used to think evolution was fact until I heard some solid counterpoints and also Father Spiriton's video about the subject. I think it's just a blatant misunderstanding of how adaptation works. Well, what it is they take a reasonable thing, which is adaptation, which no one denies, and then they extrapolate it out to these fantastical positions, like absolutely insane fantastical positions. So evolution is like one of the most incoherent theories that has ever been wrought on humankind. It's absolutely incoherent. Okay, goodbye, churchianity. I'm sure you're gonna do a whole hell of a lot, which is nothing. You're gonna sit there and moralize at people in piety signal. Actually, you want to know what? Do not pray for me, because the prayers of somebody who is as vindictive and nasty as you will actually be a detriment to me. I don't want you praying to your demon.
Where it is unreasonable for someone to believe something that actually is true.
Because you don't believe in the same God that I do. You won't answer if you're Orthodox. You won't answer any questions. You won't call in. You don't have the balls to do any of that. You're a coward. And so I don't believe that you are of the same class as me. Exactly, Hopcrop. Exactly. Merciful, who are you? And we need your mercy, bub. This is Nut thinks he's God. Exactly. This is why I'm not engaging with him. Period.
This is hard to demonstrate as a thought experiment, so I'm going to do one last little demo. I have a playing card here, and I promise you this is not a magic trick. It's just the best way that I could think of to make this point. I am telling you that this card is the 3 of clubs. Is it reasonable for you to believe that I'm telling you the truth and that this card really is the 3 of clubs? In our last debate, you called me a liar. And so if you think I'm a liar, if you have a reasonable belief that I'm a liar, then you do not have a reasonable belief that I'm telling you the truth, that this card is the 3 of clubs. And so it's not reasonable for you to believe that it is the 3 of clubs, despite the fact that it is, in fact, the 3 of clubs. Okay, I promise I'm done with my demos. Now, I want to actually engage with the substance of your argument as you've presented it. You started out by listing a long list of assumptions.
We got 4 minutes left.
In your original debate, I counted 9. I think there were more this time. I don't have anywhere, obviously I'm not going to be able to address all of them. I'm going to just focus on 2 of them, because I think that'll give us more than enough to keep us busy for the rest of the evening. So you said that we have to assume that minds exist in order to even have a coherent conversation.
Yes.
Now, saying that we have to assume this is a very clever rhetorical trick, because you aren't actually assuming it. What you are actually doing is presenting a tacit argument for the proposition that minds exist. If we make that argument explicit, it goes something like this. Minds are necessary in order to discuss whether or not minds exist. You and I are discussing whether or not minds exist, therefore we must have minds, and therefore minds must exist. So the assumption that you have actually made is that minds are necessary to
if memory serves, this is affirming the consequent fallacy. Wait till ancient churchianity finds out that the church fathers weren't always kind. Well, he doesn't care, Orthodox Nicholas. They don't care. He doesn't care. We gave dozens of examples, and he refused to engage with any of them. He was just sitting there moralizing and asking questions. So I don't care about what somebody like that thinks. I'm gonna be honest. I just don't.
explain things that we observe, namely the fact that we are having a discussion about the existence of minds. The problem is that you haven't defined what you mean by mind. And that word comes with a lot of philosophical baggage, like that there's a distinction between mind and brain. But you haven't actually demonstrated any of that. And in particular, you haven't demonstrated that there is any distinction between minds and brains.
It's not his job to do that, though. I mean, he can, but his critique is that you don't have a distinction between mind and brain.
It may well be that brains are sufficient to explain our observation that we're having a discussion about the existence of minds. Now, whether there is a distinction between minds and brains used to be a legitimate philosophical debate, but it isn't anymore, because nowadays we have machines that can do all of the things that brains and minds can do, including having conversations about whether or not minds exist. So it is manifestly...
Did Dr. Wrong just say that AI is the equivalent of a brain or a mind, and that you can have an actual sentient conversation with AI? No, you can't. Ooh, boy, this is going to be rough. Not looking forward to this, guys. Not looking forward to that.
Not true that brains are necessary to do these things. So unless you want to argue that AIs have minds, your necessary assumption that minds exist is revealed as not merely begging the question, but an empirical claim that crumbles in the face of actual evidence. The second assumption that I want to challenge is that the laws of logic are universal and absolute, unchanging, and not dependent on human opinion and convention. Now, this is an old and venerable argument that goes back.
He's gonna argue that the laws of logic can change. Okay, that's a tall order to ask, guys. It's a tall order.
To at least as far as St. Augustine, around 400 AD, which matters because at Augustine's time, the paragon of logic and reason was Euclid's Elements, which is famously based on 5 assumptions or postulates. The fifth one is called the parallel postulate, and it says that if you have a line and a point not on that line, then it is possible to draw exactly one line through that point that is parallel to the given line. That is pretty long-winded, and Euclid's actual statement of it was even more long-winded. And for almost 2...
Have you ever talked about whether you think Father Josiah is an ecumenist now? I don't think he's an ecumenist. I just think that an ecumenist is somebody... Here's how I define ecumenism. Somebody who, for the sake of unity, is willing to sacrifice orthodoxy and orthopraxy, right? So they're willing to sacrifice their orthodoxy and their orthopraxy for the sake of unity. It is not, however, somebody just simply going and saying, oh, hey, we agree on these certain areas, we can get along in this. You have decided to call in. Feel free to call in, brother. Here is the call-in link, I believe. You can call in or you can join the panel, whichever one you prefer. Just let me know. But there is a distinction, and I think this is an important distinction that people forget. Father Josiah is willing to hold out a hand to unite on certain issues in order to accomplish certain things, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that he is willing to sacrifice orthodoxy or orthopraxy or our core beliefs as Orthodox for the sake of that. You just click the link, or you go in the description, and there is a panel link here. I'll send you the panel link as well. So that's the call-in link. This is the panel link. There you go. So either one of those. So the call-in link is the callers. It just says studio/callers, and then studio.rumble/studio/join. The join one is for the panel. The other one is for callers. And feel free to allow to join. Hey, brother. Go ahead. What's up?
Hi, Nicholai. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hold on. Let me move you around here. There we go. We got you on the screen. What's up? How can I help you, man?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. How are you? So it's been a while since I used to go by Scurvy Rum in case you didn't know.
I remember. Yep.
Yeah, I have this new fancy model here and everything. But I have some thoughts I'd like to say regarding the current conversation that you're playing.
Sure.
So I think one thing that helped me kind of funnily enough, one thing that helped me realize that it's like, oh, Christianity is true was certain parts of the sciences. It's just like, okay, so if this is true and this is true and this is true, it just led me closer and closer to realizing that it's like God is real, and it. Sorry, I'm kind of mincing my words here a little bit.
No, go
But
ahead.
God is real, and eventually that led me to orthodoxy. It's kind of given the real skinny a real short rundown.
The long and short of it.
Yeah, the
I get what
long and
you're
short
saying.
of it. But I find a lot of the stuff I'm learning about the evolution just being a bunch of nonsense, and just like some of the other stuff that he's talking about. It's like they're just theory. They are just theories, man. They're just theories.
It's theory.
They're not
It's
fact.
theory laden. No, it's theory laden, and that's something. I used to be very active in this sphere. I used to debate this a lot when I was when I was younger and in high school, in particular high school, because that was all the rage. The new atheist movement was very
Yeah.
young.
I was
That was
sucked
the
into
height
that
of
too, man.
Yeah, that was the height of like that movement was when I was a middle schooler and high schooler. And it kind of died off in like 2012, 2013, 2014. That was kind of the years it
I
started
see.
dying off. Sorry. So like my early days of college, it was kind of like no one took it seriously anymore. Everyone was kind of like, eh,
Eh.
they're like this isn't really
It,
a
so to speak.
serious thing anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, like I was an atheist. So I'm gonna be turning 26 this year. I was an atheist since I was like 14ish. I started looking into Christianity, or especially Orthodoxy, like seriously, like 10 years later. I had like something, personal bad situation happen to me. I didn't really have no one else to turn to but Christ. And so I've been trusting in him ever since.
Yeah.
I don't regret that decision at all. One of the best choices I've ever made.
Yep. And that's often and this is what I always tell people, is that atheism doesn't provide a framework
It
for you
really
to
doesn't.
actually live your lives. The people that remain like secular atheists, they find their meaning in something external to themselves. But they don't rely on their atheism, right? Their belief system is not what actually is sustaining them from just like going full nihilist, like Nietzsche, right?
Yeah.
Like Nietzsche is the person that takes the atheistic belief and takes it to its logical extreme, right? Which is
it's just nihilism.
Which is actually the consistent position, right?
Oh.
But most
I suppose.
atheists do not hold to that, right? Most atheists will find value in other things, right? Like family. Why does but the thing is they can't make sense of why family is even important from an atheistic worldview. So most of them
I've
aren't
noticed
actually
that too.
living. Yeah, most atheists are not living in that with that paradigm. Like they're not living consistent with the paradigm that they proclaim as the truth, right? So that's the thing that always needs to be like kind of understood and focused on when it comes to these things. They constantly and another thing that doesn't make sense is that they constantly advocate for their position, but what Jim Bob was mentioning is like why are you even advocating for this? It's like this is entirely performative.
Yeah, it's like taking like what you said, like nihilism is the logical endpoint of that. So why the hell does it matter that you're talking that you're even talking about your position if it doesn't matter, and that we're all insignificant specks in the broader multiverse?
Yes. And the thing
is, it falls apart. Nihilism just falls apart. Like when you really take a deep dive into what a nihilist actually believes, it's just like, as an Orthodox Christian now, I'm just like, I can't even comprehend the like. It's such a cognitive disconnect for me now of just like, wait, so why are if you think life doesn't matter and this, that, and the other, it's just like, why do you choose to live? What purpose do you have if you're going to be thinking so lowly about your own existence?
Well, yes, and that's the thing. That's the thing that people
Too.
really don't understand is that they constantly want us to be in a perpetual state of like anxiety,
Big time.
but it doesn't really work that way. Like, right? Like we don't actually. No one wants to live that way. uh, and so what ends up happening is that people lose. They lose like that meaning for themselves, and before they know it, um, they've kind of found themselves floundering in their personal lives, and then they try and find a raft or the ark of salvation, and that's where a lot of people come into Christ, right? And I'm not one of those like prudes that think, oh, everybody that gave their lives to Christ who's not part of the Orthodox Church are not Christian, or something like that. I think that they have a genuine experience, and I think Christ works through where they're at, right? So Christ is
Yeah.
going to work through where they're at. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. But for sure. Yeah, atheism never really attracted me. I never got tempted by atheism ever. I always found it kind of incoherent. Like, again, if I was an atheist, why am I wasting my time debating religious people on the internet? I should be going partying it up. I should be going
Yeah.
ham. Right?
Oh,
Like,
man.
what am I wasting my time for? It's like, and the thing is what also boggles my mind is atheists almost always have the worst virtue signaling when it comes to like their how do you say? They have the worst.
Propaganda.
Well, no, what like they it's like they all magically agree on like basic liberalism, like low tier lesbianic liberalism, right?
Ah,
like
yeah.
like they're all
That stuff.
wearing their colored hair with the septum ring, and they all hold to all the same liberal views and like equality and human rights. It's like, but none of that stuff matters from that worldview. So it's kind of insane. Someone says after
Why keep talking about like human rights if the logical point of your worldview is like rights don't matter?
yeah. Well, Black Sheep says, afternoon, Nicholai. I saw you commenting on Cleve's chat. How far are you guys into the debate? We're just getting done with Dr. Ron's opening statement. So far, I'm not very impressed. I mean, the fact that he says, well, if I am a liar, well, he held up a card as an example of saying it's reasonable to believe that this isn't the card, even though it's really the card. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such. Like, if you looked at Jim
Yeah.
Bob's face, you're like, could tell that he was just like, nah, bro.
I know I'm behind a VTuber model or whatnot, but I'm just like, when people pull that kind of crap around me of like, oh, it's there, but it's not actually there. It's like, are you high or something?
Yeah.
What have you been smoking? And
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to have some if it's gonna make me stupid.
Yeah, I just never found any of the atheist arguments particularly convincing, especially when you start holding them to their strict kind of like scientific method standards. When you ask them about the scientific method, and then you ask how any of their theories actually meet the basic criteria to be considered a science, almost none of it does.
Especially thinking now when it comes to like evolution or whatnot, it's like, okay, how do you even go about kind of proving that via the scientific method? You really can't. And that's because in their mind it's like this stuff happens over millions of years, but it's just like, well, you're not going to be around for millions of years. I mean, I know I will. I'm a horse orange on the internet, but humans can't live that long.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny because, strictly speaking, And again, I don't care. By the way, if you're streaming, I don't care. You can stream as well.
No,
At the same
I'm
time.
not streaming. I just
Okay,
wanted
that's
to
fine.
join.
I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
What I would say, and this is very important to understand, is that any scientific method that does not start with observation is immediately not a science.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You need observation. So you need observation. Why? Because you need to be able to come up with a hypothesis based on that observation. And then that
Exactly.
hypothesis has to be what? Tested. And what does a test need? So Creamsicle, you went to
Creamsicle.
high school. Creamsicle. You went to high school, right?
I
What
went
do
to
they
high
teach you?
school, undergraduate, and graduate
Yeah.
school.
What do they teach you is the basic thing that a scientific experiment needs?
Well, like what you mentioned earlier, you need observation, then you need a hypothesis, and then you need to come up with then you need to actually come up with ways to test that hypothesis.
Yeah. How do you test it?
It's been a while since
Well,
I last
okay,
thought about this.
I'll give it. You need an independent variable and a dependent variable.
Right.
So here's the question that you always ask yourself. How do any of these people test any of these theories? So, for example, they say, oh, we know the universe is expanding at a rate of this fast. And it's like, okay, well, have you seen the edge of the universe? Well, no. It's like, well, then how do you know it's expanding? Well, we know because the red shift. Well, how do you know red shift is actually a measurement of space expansion? They say, well, we know because that's the only thing that makes sense. Well, I mean, could there be a reason why redshift happens that isn't because of expansion? And they say, well, maybe. And it's like, okay, so you're just pulling it out of your butt and saying that that's what it is, right? Like
it just goes back to it's like it is what it is because I said so, and then it's circular. It's
not a single camera, telescope, or anything. We've never had a single observation of any astral body outside of our solar system, let alone whatever they theorize is billions of light years away. And that's not even getting into I'm not even going to argue with some, because there's some people out there like flat earthers and things like that. And it's like, I'm not going to debate that. I'm just saying, even from their own paradigm. So even if we adopt their own paradigm, let's say someone's a flat earther, which I don't really care about that issue. I don't really think too much about it. But even from that paradigm, you would have to hold to all sorts of ridiculous things in order to try and justify it. Doesn't make sense. So
yeah. there's some regarding flat earth in itself. It's like no one has ever actually done a proper a proper study like on the flat earther side, so to speak. It's like, well, they can't do that because if they did, following, they're also quite into the whole, into the scientific method. They love to think that they know it, but they don't. They can never, come up with any sort of proper observation or hypothesis or anything else. And it's just like you're just talking out of your ass here. That's what you're doing at the end of the day. It's funny, don't get me wrong. I think it's very funny. And it's like, oh, I might see something funny like that on my feed, and it just gives me a chuckle. But it's like, how can you take that seriously? Honestly, how can you take that seriously?
Well, listen. Here's my answer for whenever someone says, "Do you believe in global birth?" Or because I believe space is mostly fake and gay. I don't think we really go into space. I think it's a money laundering scheme.
Quite and also a bit of it is, yes.
Yeah, and I also think from a logistics standpoint, it makes no sense. Just from a debris standpoint, there'd be so much debris in the upper atmosphere by now that it would be literally treacherous every single time the astronauts go up there. But we don't see that happening ever. The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. That being said, I don't really care if it's a flat or if it's a globe or whatever else. It doesn't matter to me. And people will be like, "Oh, if you don't care, then," I'm like, here. You know how much of my life is impacted about on whether or not I believe the shape of the Earth is something else than it really is. If I believed it was a square, how much of my life is meaningfully impacted by it being a square? Nothing.
Not much
Like
at all, if
it
nothing.
doesn't change anything in my day-to-day life, right? And so what I do to irritate people, and it really pisses them off, is that I say, well, actually, I just believe the Earth is a realm. And they'll be like,
Ooh, a
what,
realm.
what do they say? And then they start getting so upset. They're just like, they start saying, well, what do you mean by a realm? What does that mean? Is it flat? Is it? I said, and then this is what I do to piss them off even more. And I do this because it's tongue in cheek. It's so fun. You just say,
I can already see why it is. It's hilarious.
You say, the realm reveals itself based on the orientation of the person's beliefs. So it will reflect whatever you believe. so if you believe it's flat, it will reflect a flat. If you believe it's geocentric, it'll be geocentric. If you believe heliocentric, it'll be like the Earth is a realm, and so it just pisses them off because you just take like the most non-committal. People hate non-committal answers. They hate it. They're like, they can't stand it when you don't commit to any position. It's like, there's certain things that I will not comment on because I literally just do not care.
Like, same here. I'm gonna be honest, like, same here. I comment on a lot personally, but it's just like some things, it's just like I either don't care, or if it's something that's been going on for like too long, I've just lost all potential to care. It's just like, especially when things start getting circular, I stop caring when things, when arguments get circular.
Well, Father Stephen DeYoung had an interesting thing that he said when he was talking with Jay Dyer the other day on Alex's stream. It was the post-Jay kind of like analysis stream. And something that Father Stephen said is that they were kind of like pseudo-debating whether the prophet Samson is a saint. And by the way, my personal opinion is I think he probably is a saint. I think that but that being said, if the church's position on him is non-committal, they haven't made a commitment one way or the other, I don't care. And that's the same thing that Father Stephen said. He says, at the end of the day, if my bishop came to me and said, listen, you need to stop with this Samson stuff, he's a saint, Father Stephen would say, okay, and he would drop it, and he wouldn't drop it. Like, it's like, you're allowed to take positions where it's like not that serious of a position that's like dogmatic, right? Like, there's non-dogmatic positions that you can have, right? And I think that's like, it's like, for example, is someone required to like the Byzantine Empire? No. I think you're kind of silly not to, but like, are you required to? You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're not required to. But like, I agree with you. It is rather silly to dislike the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the main thing. That's the main thing that I always tell people is like, you don't need to get hung up on the little things in life. You really don't. Like, now as for like evolution, someone was like, well, can I believe in evolution and still be, Christian or whatever? Well, of course you can. I think it leads you to all sorts of absurd conclusions.
That's what I started like thinking about too. It's like when I was really starting to think about that, it's like it does lead to some pretty absurd conclusions, and I kind of reworked it in my brain. It's just like it took a while, but it was like, okay, I finally understand what I was thinking back then, and thinking, it's like, okay, that's why I said in the chat earlier why I think it's like the whole theory of evolution. It just seems to be a weird way of just saying that we have like adaptation, but it's just like the conclusions it draws, it's so wild. And then actually looking back at the Bible, it's just like, okay, this just makes a whole lot more sense. I think it actually makes a lot more sense that we've always been human beings. We were never monkeys or pigs or
Well, I think
hamsters
Jim Bob pretty much I think Jim Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Jim Bob, I think Jim Bob pretty much destroyed the theistic evolution position when he debated Redeem Zoomer. Because Redeem Zoomer's position requires you to have an incoherent position on human anthropology, right? So here's what I think: the things that matter most about the nature of the world are the things that are going to influence your theology. The Earth being flat or round or a realm or whatever way a square or a triangle or whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter because it doesn't actually affect my theology at all. What does affect my theology is evolution. Evolution can affect your theology negatively. Why? Because you have to hold to an incoherent view of human anthropology. You have to have an incoherent view of the development of mankind. And so there's all sorts of ridiculous positions you have to hold to, right? So, for example, Adam and Eve's parents, right?
Who were they?
Adam, well, they weren't anybody. They were animals. God ensouled Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve are ensouled, finally, after millions of years of evolution. Adam and Eve are finally ensouled, or our first ancestors, or whatever population you want to. Maybe it's all just a theory, and Adam and Eve didn't really exist, and it was just a population of people. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that they're ensouled now. They actually have conscious faculties, right? One generation prior, they're still alive. The fall happens. God permits the eating of animals. Was it okay for Adam and Eve to then eat their parents? They're not ensouled. They're just animals. See how you're like, you start have to like, it leads to absurd conclusions, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It just gets crazy. Like, wait, so Adam and Eve, like, suddenly they're so different from their parents. It's just like, it just explodes the brain. Like, it's just nonsense. Like, and also Jim Bob was actually the guy who really got me to start thinking about that, and it was just listening to some of his streams and just like the way he talks about it. It's just like he is really well read on this stuff, and it's like he knows their arguments, he knows you could say their tricks. It's just like he is prepared for every single one of them, and I'm just like, well, it's so overwhelming to the point where it's just like, well, I think now's the time to change my mind on this matter.
Yes, and here's the Black Sheep says we can observe microevolution, but we can't macroevolution. Is pretty heavy extrapolation on that concept. Correct, and there's no reason to hold that naturally follows. They say it naturally follows, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to insert a bunch of assumptions in that in order to make it that. And so they play fast and loose with those concepts, which is why Jim Bob is really good about that, guys. So now someone said, can someone explain Ben Michael's position for me? I cannot seem to get a direct answer. I keep hearing different things. What do you mean, his position on what? You have to actually like, what is the position? So if you tell me what that position is, I can at least give you what I think his position might be, and then we can go look on his X account. I have the internet. So
that's true. We all do.
We can go check together and see what his position is. In fact, we can even go to his recent podcast and review that, because I'm not sure how interesting this debate's going to continue. We'll let Jim Bob go back and forth and do a little bit of questioning afterwards, before we move on. But yeah, I'm not sure how useful this is going to be long term.
Hey Nicholai, I'm gonna get ready for bed here, but thank you for having me on. It was great chatting. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, man. God bless you. And anytime you want to go, if you want to do a dual stream, you're welcome to hop in, and your audience can ask questions anytime.
Oh, one more thing.
What's up?
Cristo anesti.
Indeed, he is risen.
Heyo! Heyo!
I always forget the. I always forget the Greek.
Alithos anesti.
Alithos anesti. I go to a Russian parish, so.
I'm Greek Orthodox myself, so.
Yeah,
I see.
You damn Greeks. I'm just kidding.
I do know some Russian, Nicholai, mainly the bad words. anyways. I'll chat with you later, man.
God bless you. You have a wonderful day.
God bless you too.
All right, guys, we're going to continue this. If anyone wants to call in, we do open panels, so you are welcome to call in. We have 26 people finally listening in, so that's American Orthodoxy and American Identity. Ooh, okay, that's what he's talking about. Okay, yeah, we can review that in a second. Actually, it might be an interesting conversation to be had. Let's see. But yeah, we do call-ins and all that stuff. Jim Bob really hurt this guy's feelings at the end, did he? I don't know.
2,000 years, people tried to prove that it was true so that they wouldn't have to assume it. Everyone who tried to prove it failed, and the reason they failed is that Euclid's fifth postulate isn't actually true. It turns out that there are consistent systems.
There we go. We got the naughty one, guys. There's something about Russian cussing that is so, like, just guttural and just like, ugh. Now back to our regular scheduled atheist boomer idiocy. So true.
Systems of geometry where there are 0 parallel lines to the point, and systems where there are many different parallel lines, in fact, an infinite number.
1 minute.
And these systems turn out to be useful for different applications. There is no Platonic truth about the parallel postulate. But it took literally 2,000 years for humans to figure this out. And there are lots and lots of more modern examples. There's something called the continuum hypothesis, and another one that's literally called the axiom of choice, which you can choose to use or not. And so I would like to suggest that we start by achieving clarity on exactly what it is that we're talking about. Are you going to stick with, well, in particular, what's your definition of?
Okay. So I don't have it open right now, but mate, you've been in my channel now twice, 2 days in a row, and I'm not exactly sure, like, if your English is really that bad or what's going on. But you're going to be hidden from this channel from now on. You don't call the Divine Liturgy sexy. Be gone. You can watch in the background. Okay.
God, and what's your definition of reasonable? And maybe the best place to start would be for me to just ask you if you think that computers have or can have minds, or is that something unique to humans?
I'm
done.
Alrighty. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys doing those openings. Right on track here. We're gonna get into the open dialogue, guys. Go ahead, click like on the video, subscribe.
This is where I don't like MDD's format quite as much. I wish they would do a like a 4-minute or 5-minute, maybe a 3 to 4 minute rebuttal. But Rich said, yeah. No, yeah. Romanian cussing is very poetic. I don't know enough about Romanian cussing to be able to tell you one way or the other. I don't know if he's drunk or not. He was acting kind of weird last night, so.
If you're new to the channel, and we do have a...
I wonder if is Cleve still going? They're going on like 4 hours now. Is Cleve still going? Cleve to Antiquity. No, it looks like they just ended. That's probably where I got the bump in viewers. All right, let's continue.
Right here, let's see if it pops up. We have a Facebook clips page. We have a TikTok now, as well as a what is this last one here? A new sponsor, which is...
So, guys, I gotta say this. Big Mike, he speaks so slow. I have him on 1.25, and he's still speaking like normal. Yeah, Octavian, anytime this Nicholai guy comes back up, just mute him. because I'm not going to deal with this today. Can confirm, Cleve ended, and I came here. So true. Okay.
Is Yonaguni Sushi, international cuisine in Puerto Rico, in Aguadilla. I highly recommend if you're stopping by, check it out. And more about that later. So we'll get into the open dialogue, 60 minutes on the clock here, starting right now. So, Jim Bob, if you'd like to respond to
Sure.
his opening.
Yeah. So a couple things in there. One, I didn't really get a criterion for what constitutes a rational or reasonable belief. It sounded like you said if a kid is told that Santa Claus exists, then they have a reason that they're reasonable in their belief. It's a reasonable, rational belief.
Well,
If
it depends on who's telling them.
Yeah, if their parents tell them.
Real quick, I just want to ask that we let each other finish whatever question or line of thought we're doing before we respond. And then if you don't feel like you're going to get the time to respond, I'll make sure that you do. So just be respectful to Jim
I'm
Bob
happy
in
to
that
respect that,
full
but
question.
if he's asking me something about something that I said and he's getting it wrong, then we're going to save a lot of time if I correct him on the spot rather than waiting to the end and then having to rewind
No,
and
yeah,
say,
I understand
way
that.
back at the beginning, you got this wrong.
Cool. Yeah, just I'm just making sure that it doesn't turn into a interruption habit here.
Yeah,
the
no,
expectation
I'm all for that.
All right. Go ahead, Jim Bob. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so a child is reasonable in their belief in Santa Claus if their parents tell them, if they trust their parents, depending on who tells them, right? So if
Would you disagree with that?
Dude.
I just want to know if you would agree or disagree with that.
No, I'm using your standard first, and I'm just going to draw out the conclusion of your standard for a second, okay?
You can ask him whatever question.
So, based on
Garrett.
that as the standard, if my parents tell me God exists, still today, I called my parents and they say God exists and I trust them. By your standard, it's reasonable for me to believe in God, correct?
Are you 6 years old?
No, it doesn't matter. You said if I trust the person.
No, it does matter. There's a reason why I made it a 6-year-old child.
Okay. So at what
The
point?
standards that apply for reasonable beliefs of 6-year-olds are different than the standards that apply for reasonable beliefs of adults.
On what basis?
So completely subjective. When is this arbitrary cutoff date, right? So right away, Ron is saying there's a difference between the standards for a 6-year-old and the standards for an adult, which is funny because we actually don't really use different standards. We don't use those different standards for orthodoxy. Children are introduced into the full life of the church from infancy, and it's only after they reach the age of reason. But we have a doctrine for that. The question is for this, guys.
Basis.
I am amazed that I actually have to defend this.
I know you are.
Because 6-year-olds don't have fully functioning brains. And so it's not reasonable to expect the same things from 6-year-olds that we expect from fully functioning adults.
Okay. Would you say it would be a 6-year-old belief expectation that they believe in God or Santa Claus?
If their parents tell them that, then it's not unreasonable, and they have nobody, and that they have no reason to doubt their parents. Then, yeah, sure, it's reasonable for them to believe that. But I would also expect that as they grow up and that they acquire more information, that they would start to question those beliefs.
Yeah, but most people are religious. So this doesn't follow. So his entire paradigm starts falling apart. This doesn't follow at all. Very weak position. Yeah, Nika, I'm sorry. Brother, I don't know what's going on with you. But the fact that you jumped, there's a reason I muted you on the first account. Because you're, I don't know if you're drunk, I don't know if you're high or what's going on, but you're just not speaking coherently. So on your second account, oh, it was banned already. Where's the call-in link? It should be in the description. It should be in the description, Marine. In the description. In the description. Thought that this did that already. Hold on, guys. Yeah. If you call in with the description link, you can go ahead and call in and ask any question you want. Yeah, he's completely talking incoherent. Well, he's gone now, so maybe meth. So, Methuana, how's the possibility to add Ace? Please don't report me. Again, I don't know why I can see your stuff, but I already banned you from the chat, so goodbye. No one can see your stuff anymore, so.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they question the beliefs and they're adults and they still hold the belief in God outside of the threshold of the age that you arbitrarily defined as unreasonable versus adult, now I'm reasonable. So if a bunch of adults, right, the majority of humankind believes in God, on what basis are you declaring their belief unreasonable?
Because it's incompatible. Well, so now I have to press you on what you mean by God. Because there are definitions of God where, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable. And let me be actually very specific about this.
Okay.
There is a definition of God that is actually very close to something that you find in quantum mechanics, something called the universal wave function. If you define God as this sort of abstract thing that is somehow omniscient and kind of keeps an eye on everything but doesn't actively intervene and is not actually a person that you can pray to that will answer your prayers, then there are things in quantum mechanics that kind of sort of look like that. But I'm guessing that's not what you mean by...
What? Oh, Lord have mercy.
God, right?
Right, but if someone, if I was defending any definition of God, being that the debate is it reasonable to believe in God? If you just admitted that there is a definition of God that's reasonable, it sounds like you'd conceded the debate.
Well, maybe, except that I am having this debate with somebody that I know to be an Orthodox Christian, and so I have certain reasonable expectations about what you actually mean by God that you are being cagey about.
Well, the thing is, if you have to start with the proposition of a broad concept of God and you can whittle it down, what we're establishing here is even the broad concept of God as the creator of all things, omniscient being, someone who, like I said in my opener, someone who can ground a type of mind that's not just a human particular mind.
Prestia, everything in this world has a source, and these atheists are just full of pride and prelust. They call Christians irrational, yet they themselves worship science as a god and have faith in their system. 100%. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct.
Mind, a type of mind that can actually ground and house, let's say, universal concepts like the laws of logic. If that mind was necessary in my reasoning, it would be reasonable to believe that a mind exists that transcends human minds that can justify laws of logic and truth and stuff, right?
So what do you mean by mind?
Well, a mind is, like, from a human perspective, a mind is a knower.
A knower. Okay.
A knower, a human knower. However,
can a computer have a mind?
No.
Okay, so
that's why I actually want to touch on that, because you actually said in your opener that computers can think and do things, and
I didn't say they could think.
Well, you said they could do stuff that humans.
I said they could have conversations. They could engage in conversations, including conversations about very abstract topics like whether or not minds exist.
You said that machines can do what humans do.
I said that machines can engage in conversations.
Well,
yeah, but conversation is just it's a preloaded algorithm that's not necessary. So it doesn't help you any to say that there's a distinction between the mind and the brain, because you've immediately just equated it to a program. You just immediately done that. So it's completely you've completely undermined your entire argument right off the bat.
I read from a script. I can tell you exactly word for word what I said.
Ron, machines, and you said you don't need the human, but the human needed to make the machine. You said it in your opener. Read it back.
I didn't say anything about who made who.
Read the part in your opener about machines and humans.
Sorry, I closed the document because I wasn't expecting to need it again. Yeah, okay. So whether there's a distinction between minds and brains used to be a legitimate philosophical debate, but it isn't anymore, because nowadays we have machines that can do all the things that brains and minds can do,
really,
including having conversations about whether or not minds exist.
Okay, stop there. You said machines can do all the things that human minds can do. The human mind made the machine. Did the machine
No problem, brother. We all know that. We all know you're not an atheist. A machine that can find the line of a best fit demonstrates no innate understanding. Divorced from human input, it lacks abstract thought. 100%. And there will never be a fully conscious AI because all it is preloaded programs that tell it what to do. So if it's supposed to go and seek information, it will just upload that information, analyze it, and then spit out response that's pre-coded into its genes, right? Genes, its code.
Make itself?
It can. Nowadays, it absolutely can.
No, without the human.
It can. Nowadays, yes, it can. It
No,
can
no,
do these
no,
things
no,
without humans.
no, without the human coding it to do it.
Yes, it really can.
So you're saying
Nowadays,
that-
computers can write their own code. They really can.
What made the computer write its own code?
Well, nowadays, the way you get a computer to write its own code is you literally just
Who?
say, write some code for
Yeah,
me.
who does that? Who does that?
Well, most of the time it's humans doing that, but you
When
can
is it not?
actually get, well, you can set up two AIs to talk to each other.
You can?
Have
Is
one of
that
them
me?
ask-
Wait.
You can set them up? Lord have mercy, this guy. This is why I don't debate atheists anymore, guys. This is just embarrassing. You can set up two? Are machines icons? No. They're not made in our image. They don't have free will.
You can set an AI? Is that a me as a human or?
So we are still in the early days.
Exactly, it's a glorified search algorithm, not mention the crazy bias that they're programmed with. Yeah, exactly, Prestia. The whole AI thing is a giant nothing burger. People are really confused about what it's actually doing. And these LLMs write awful code 70% of the time and can't even fulfill basic functions. The AI are good with pre-blueprinted plans. So built out prefabricated blueprinted plans, but if you're asking it to do something new, it's awful. Which is why you'll always need programmers. AI is a terrible story writer as someone who uses AI to write. Yeah, don't use AI to come up with the story yourself. AI at best can help you maybe craft some like grammatical things and maybe like structure it a little bit. But that's asking it to be essentially an editor, which is fine because editing is actually a science. There is a science to editing, which is like where the commas go, how grammar, how to make sure I spell things right, things like that. But I would not recommend it for like writing. I had ChatGPT Premium for my work and got rid of it because it was like going back and forth with a boomer. Someone said AI is a bursting bubble, which is exactly why my AI product that I am working on is going to resolve that issue, because it's going to actually force people to chat. Let's hit Nicholai. Go. Sure. Thank you, Octavian. There's a bug in my drink. That's gross. The ability to make you talk does not make you intelligent. Qui-Gon Jinn, so true. What I will say about this is that, and this will just get on the AI topic because this guy is bringing it up like a boomer. AI is, again, just pre-programmed, pre-understood search algorithm function that compiles the information that it searches for rapidly into a language model. Okay, so it's using a language model to do that. Quantum Cataphract, $5. Thank you, Quantum. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And so long story short, that's not what he's going to get at. So why is an Ortho guy have the name of a glorious pagan Roman emperor? I don't know who is that, right? I don't know who you're talking about. Bug protein, guys. Bro just downed the bug. It wasn't it. No, I swished it to the side and then I finished my drink. Black sheep. There's a bug in your drink. Computers have bugs. Thus, we're living in a simulation. Checkmate, theist. So true. Oh, you guys are funny. Octavian. Octavian is a interesting Roman emperor. To be fair, I don't think that's his actual like baptismal name, by the way. There's an so AI will be useful when it's specifically trained for specific tasks and not trained on general data from the internet. Right now, it's just there's too generic. So that's actually one of the things that I'm trying to do with my AI product, which I'm not going to give away too much here, but I'm hoping that it's going to be very successful. Yeah.
Days of AI.
That's not what I
And
asked you, dude. I don't need a story about AI. I'm asking you, you said computers and machines can do all these things that humans can do, which was alluding to the idea that they are somehow independent and neutral on their own doing their thing. But the reality is humans made them. We engineered them to do things.
Yeah,
So that's false. So your opening statement has a falsity in it. So just concede.
Okay, maybe I need to wordsmith it a little bit.
Okay, good. So if that's the
computers
case,
can do the things that minds can do that make you think that the minds exist. So what exactly is it that you think that humans can do that computers can't, that shows that we have minds and they don't?
code computers to do things.
But computers can't do that. They absolutely can't.
We can ask the computer to go and do something. We can't make the computer go and do it. We can even automate it, but automating it is just putting it onto a track. They can't self-analyze itself and moralize itself. It can't it's not self-referential. There's all sorts of problems. So
do that.
No, only with us to do. Look, dude,
No,
how are you not
not
getting this? How are you not getting this? Human being. Look, no, Ron, hold on. Human beings make machines. They make.
By the way, guys, remember to share the stream, like the stream, all that nonsense.
Machines do stuff. One of the things that humans make machines do is stuff that humans kind of do. The machine itself on its own doesn't do that without the human.
No, you're actually wrong about that.
Oh, really?
Yes, really.
Show me.
And this happens. I mean, this is literally my area of expertise.
Oh, really?
This is yes.
So show me an example of a machine absent the human coding it, engineering it to unfold a set of commands that are complex. Show me where the computer without a human self-existed.
How do you expect me to show that to you right now here in this context?
Give me an example.
Is there really any doubt in your mind that if I went away for a couple of days that I could come back with a machine that does exactly what you?
A machine made by who?
Nowadays, the machines are made by other machines.
And who makes the machine that makes the machine?
Originally, this was all started by humans.
That's right. And without humans, without humans, it wouldn't be able to do that, right?
No, that's not true. Nowadays, the machines could actually get
holy shit, dude. What's a machine? This is unbelievable. A machine is something that's built by humans, correct?
Not necessarily.
When is a machine?
I can't do it. Guys, I don't know if I can do it. This is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. This guy's he's a doctor. This is his area of expertise, and he's getting something this basic wrong. Whatever this guy touches, don't approach with a 10-foot pole. Do not approach it with a 10-foot pole, because you're just asking for a disaster. You're just asking for a disaster. That's insane. That is actually crazy, by the way. That is actually crazy. Like, that is crazy for him to say. Wait, you guys, there's something wrong here because Ogre, yeah, hold on. Jim Bob always buries the retards in the atheist graveyard. Evolution versus adaptation. Yeah, he absolutely does. It's a complete domination every single time. It's not even close. Apparently, Ron did AI research for NASA too. Well, no wonder NASA's AI is hot garbage. And like, no joke here, guys. NASA's AI is garbage. This is why SpaceX does so much better than them.
Not built by a human.
Is
That's
your car a
computer.
machine?
Is it built by a human?
Is your car a machine?
Yeah.
Your car is almost certainly today not built by a human. It's
Really?
almost certainly
Who-
built by,
who makes
yeah,
it?
it's almost
Oh,
certainly
really?
built by a robot.
Oh, by a machine.
By a machine, yeah.
And who built the robot?
Probably another robot.
And then who built that robot?
Originally, it all started with, I mean, obviously humans kickstarted the process.
Great. Yeah. So I'm saying is a machine can't do the can't be the source of kickstarting its own making process. It has to be intentional. Now, when you ask me the question, what's distinct is that humans have intentionality. Machines themselves just act if-then statements. They just do commands. That's all they do.
And how do you know that that's not what we do?
Well, if you're claiming that that's what we do, then knowledge is impossible. If that's what you're claiming.
What is knowledge?
Justified true belief.
Justified true belief.
And I'll tell you how. I'll give you an argument and you see if you can contend with it. If you're a machine and I'm a machine and everything I think and do and say is deterministic, that is to say it's just the result of physical dominoes happening, I have no say in the matter of the pursuit of whatever I'm about to say or come to the knowledge of or any of my evaluations. They are events. They're just events. Now, if human thinking, what you call human thinking, is merely just physical events happening, they're actually ontologically no different than rain or grass growing. But the problem with that, Ron, is those aren't propositional. Events themselves aren't propositional. They're not truth apps.
Yeah, and I think that's something that these atheists don't get, is that just because something happens doesn't mean that that thing is like a truth claim. So, for example, me doing this, that's not a truth claim. That's an event. Now, a truth claim would be me saying, if I drop this, it will land in my hand. That's a truth claim. See the distinction? Me just doing this without first, with a mind, saying this proposition doesn't work. So it doesn't make sense, guys. So
they just happen. They're just happening. So how could you place something that's just happening mechanically in the category of truth apt?
So you're using a lot of words here. You're
That's what talking is.
Words without defining them. You've introduced the word
like
propositional and truth act.
You don't know what a proposition is?
I know what a proposition is. I don't know what propositional as an adjective means.
Okay, that's fine. Let me clarify. So if I say there's a blade of grass, it would be incoherent for me to say the blade of grass is true. It's just a blade of grass, right? It's not true or false.
The proposition that this thing that you're looking at is a blade of grass.
That's a proposition. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the thing itself without the statement. The thing itself, the blade of grass, is
truth is a property of propositions. So to say that truth can't be a property of a blade of grass, that's just a category error.
Dude, where in the blade of
AIG, you're gonna have to be more specific. What do you mean by AIG? AGI? Because I'm kind of blanking on what that stands for. So just break that down for me. AGI meaning. Oh, artificial general intelligence. Oh, okay. Everyone just says AI nowadays, so I always forget AGI means that. Okay, so yeah, I can talk about that for a little bit. AGI is not possible. And it's not even theoretically possible. And I'll explain why. It's because that they're not self-sustaining, one. Two, they always have a limit, right? So the ability to reason is only to the point that it's already pre-programmed to achieve, right? So somebody can give the illusion, the mask of AGI. In fact, down the road, you're going to have people that are so convinced that their LLM is an actual like person or thing with a mind that people are going to be convinced that that is the case, but it doesn't meet the threshold for sentience, and it doesn't meet the threshold for intelligence and a broader understanding of it. Yes, it's a modern day form of animism. Yes, they're essentially applying human properties to AI. So, Butlerian jihad, the Butlerian jihad. Yes, I am. Yes. Let's just say I agree. I mean, the only way that there would be AGI would be maybe a brain in a vat, like you take somebody's brain, but at that point they're still just a person. LLMs are used to write smut. Yeah, almost all of it nowadays. All of the fanfics nowadays are used, or LLMs are being used, and even a lot of novels are. Though I will say that not all of the novels that are being produced are, and a lot of people are getting accused of it without actually having evidence of it. Obligatory 40K abominable intelligence reference. So true. Yes, exactly. Thank you. The demons will use whatever means they feel is the most effective way of getting their way. So they're going to use books. They'll use AI. They'll use the internet. They'll use whatever other people. They'll use whatever they can in order to further their agenda. So you just got to keep that in mind. Is the belief in the possibility of AGI based on the belief in Darwinism? Is the belief in the possibility of AGI based on the belief in Darwinian evolution? Yes, it essentially is. But the problem is that they have to believe that something kick-started it, so you're immediately not left with atheism. Which is what Jim Bob is trying to explain with Dr. Ron, is that if a human had to kickstart the process, then you immediately there is no way to defend this. Like, there's no way to say that it's not a created order. So you're essentially saying, yeah, God kickstarted the process, but I just don't believe that he's personal. So they just believe this impersonal God kickstarted the process for giggles. That make no sense why you would get those pop-ups, and they tempt you to click on certain naughty, inappropriate websites. Very possible, right? All right, guys, we're going to review Ben Michael now. He had a stream the other day that he was working on. So let's see what Ben has to say about a couple of these issues, and maybe we'll give our take on these, and see what he has to say.
After he died, pushed by the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and that's the. How many times have you guys heard "nation of immigrants"? America is a nation of immigrants. How many times has a boomer said that to you? I can't even count. I can't even count. And that's where it comes from. It comes from that book in the 1960s, right before what? Hart Celler, 1965. So the book, pushed in 1964, prepared the way for 1965 Hart Celler Act that released all of the prior quotas. Before 1965, there was a couple.
Puffer's asking, that's what we're covering right now, guys. If you want me to give a specific thought on something he's saying, I'm more than welcome to. And by the way, Ben is welcome to come in here and have a chat. I'm more than happy to have a chat with him on this.
Couple million Mexicans. There was about 100,000 Muslims total.
Speaking of evolution and recent events with Saint Seraphim Rose, have you done a deep dive into Genesis creation, early man? I have read some of it, and there's also another book that's being released in Russian that's being worked on as we speak. That's supposed to be an expansion of that book. So we're not drawing real people, then became a fetish. It's used to be pushed in degeneracy on younger and younger targets. Correct. So we're gonna see what Ben has to say on some of these issues, but I'll give my takes on some of these clips that he posts, because he posts quite a few clips. So we'll give our takes on this.
And 15,000 Indians in the entire United States. It was 90% white and Christian. And then most of the 10% was the descendants of the slaves. It was the African American population. So before 1965, which, by the way, think about all the things America accomplished before 1965. So if anyone ever tells you America was built by immigrants, does that even make any sense?
Okay. 90% white doesn't mean were Italians white. Did the average American view Italians as the same as American stock white people? No, they didn't. In fact, it took a long time for even the Irish to be accepted as white. A lot of people had problems with the mass migration of Germans into America. And in fact, German was the second most spoken language in America. Second most spoken language in America. It only stopped being the case after World War I, and then World War II put the nail in the coffin. But World War I did immense harm to the German community in America. There was a huge amount of Germans in America. I don't have proof, but I think Luigi might be a fed. No, he's not. No, he's not. I know Luigi. Like, listen, people say, well, he was in the military. I was in the military. We just have different opinions on these things. And it's not even that radical of a departure in terms of opinion. So, isn't German a preferable second language to Spanish? Well, do you mean Mexican or do you mean Spaniard? Because Spaniards speak Spanish, but they're considered white by all the race idolaters. And I'm not saying Luigi is a race idolater, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that what makes German more preferable to Spanish? They're both Eurocentric languages. So,
When that was the demographics before 1965? Built by European immigrants, maybe.
okay, so he does clarify that.
Is that what you mean? The European immigrants that came here and assimilated and experienced ethnogenesis? Because, yeah, by the way, American is an ethnicity. Yes, it is. We have experienced ethnogenesis at this point. I don't speak.
At this point? Okay. So here's where I would disagree with him. We haven't experienced ethnogenesis. We've devolved. You could argue like from 1870 to 1940s, 1950s, maybe there was some American development, like the development of an American ethos, an American ethnic group. But that was quickly fading. That quickly faded after World War II. Quickly. And it reached its culmination in 1960, and then ever since then, it's been a devolving of what it means to be an American. And in 2026, listen, I have no more meaningful connection to the people of 1776 than the random guy that moved here from England a year ago, right? Nah, bro, Spanish is way better. I actually like German better, but Germans were chased out of the big cities regularly. Yes, they were never allowed to establish enclaves in the big cities. That's why most of the Germans moved to the Midwest. The Midwest was dominated by German migrants. Dominated. Most of the farmers that we have, that I grew up with, were Germanic farmers, Scott Germans, maybe some Swedes, stuff like that. So yeah, I just like this is like, in my opinion, a lower view of the history. It ignores some of the major issues here. Spain Spanish is way richer than German in conceptual words. I think there's some truth to that. Allow. Add to stage.
Hey,
Hey, brother, how you doing?
doing good. I'm here really quick. I just wanted to cover something that was discussed last night, and I told you I'd look into it.
Yeah.
The knowledge of the Son of the end times. So I looked up Saint Basil's and Saint John Chrysostom's commentaries on this, and there's a discrepancy in their commentaries due to a textual error in between their two different versions of the Gospel of Matthew. So St. Basil's version does not have the Son does not know also. St. John Chrysostom's does. So
interesting.
That textual variant has continued on in the KG, I think the KJV and the ESV.
That kind of makes sense why they would have some problems there. But that's what happens when you limit yourself to a single translation and say that it's divinely inspired. And
yeah, because that's why I was looking at the chat with my head sideways regarding that other guy, saying it's like, oh well, it also says the Son doesn't know, and the version of Scripture that I was looking at from Saint Theophilact's commentary said nothing about the Son. So yeah.
Well, you're more than welcome to stay, but we're covering Benjamin Michael's recent political takes. So
I can stay for about 15 minutes, and I have
that's fine. Just do it. If you have to go, you have to go. No problem.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No, I'll stick around for 15 minutes.
Speak German. I don't speak any Germanic. Well, English is kind of a Germanic language, but our form of English is our dialect, if you will, is unique to the United States. It's not.
Okay, dude, come on.
What does that mean?
There isn't a single American dialect.
No, there's like 5.
I'm Minnesotan. I speak very differently than your average Southerner. Very differently.
I'm from the West Coast, and I actually don't have a Washingtonian accent. I have a Fresno accent. So.
Yeah, like America is regional, just like Europe is.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the culture in rural Minnesota is vastly different than the culture of the Deep South or Appalachia or
I mean, there will be similarities, but
certain ones. But again, I think that as time has gone on, those similarities have just begun to devolve.
Yeah.
In terms of like what it means to be an American has become more and more diluted over time, which has exactly been my argument the whole time, is that the only way forward for America is for somebody to offer a real meaningful future, a vision for what it means to be an American going forward. Not looking to the past, which we cannot recapture. We're not recapturing the past. There is no future in which white people become 90% of the population again, unless 3 things were to happen, which again, tell me the statistical chance of this happening. You deport literally every single person who doesn't have some sort of connection to Europe. It's not going to happen, okay? You deport all the illegals, which hopefully we get to some, at least some level of deporting most of them, but that's a maybe, okay? You reverse the birth rates, tomorrow. Because in the next 20 years, American stock white people, if you just want to use white as a generic term, are going to be a minority. Right now, we're a plurality. We're 60% of the population. But in the next 20 years, because of birth rates alone, let alone immigration and all these other factors, they're going to be a minority. in
Yeah.
America.
No, and I think the most appropriate understanding for an Orthodox Christian in America is that, we wish America becomes Orthodox. We pray America becomes Orthodox, so that
Yes.
we can preserve at least a form of the culture.
Yeah.
It won't.
Exactly. Well,
It won't be the same.
no, it won't. And that's the thing, is you can't assume that. And so this is where I would disagree with Ben, or maybe Ben agrees with me, but he's just not expressing it here. But the point is that I think that's good. Puffer said, "True, Minnesotans have a Canadian dialect." I'm going to remove your modder privileges if you ever say something like that again.
You should just do it anyway.
I know, I'm just teasing.
He's bad with power.
Yeah, you're mad with power, dude. You have a lot of balls to be
that mad
mocking
with
the
power.
host. No, like I know, like Minnesotans do have a upper Midwestern accent, but it's not the same as Canadians. Canadians have they have a very distinct way of speaking that's actually very different than Minnesotans.
I mean, as you get closer
so-
to the border, the O's get longer.
That's true, but they also do a really long ooze.
Yeah.
A boots, and we don't really do that in Minnesota. Like our
No.
O's will get long, but our and our A's
it won't go all the way out.
And we also we don't pronounce our E's always with all words. Like for example, with tag, right? We see tag.
Yeah.
We don't say tag, which sounds like a disease.
So it's weird about where I grew up. I grew up in Southwest Washington, and a lot of people in Southwest Washington are literally descended from Confederates. So, and half the towns are founded by Confederates, half the towns are founded by Union soldiers, because they all went to Washington for some reason. So I talk like a Fresno person, but all my neighbors talk like they're from the South.
Yeah.
So.
Puffer says, "What do you have against Canadians? Have you ever been to Canada?"
I've been to Canada. I've been to Canada once.
It's like
it's okay.
It's like if you take all the worst passive aggressive stuff from the Midwest, where we're actually nice. We're passive aggressive, but we're very nice. You remove the niceness and you just have the passive aggressiveness. That's Canadians. Canadians have this fox niceness about them, and it's aggravating. There's only one group of Canadians that I actually think are tolerable.
Western Canadians?
And those are people from Alberta.
Yeah.
Western
Canadians, basically Americans.
And who essentially are just American, but trapped in the hellhole that is Canada. So
I know people from BC who say the same thing. Rural BC.
How do I call in? Here is the call in. So you can we have two ways. You can do a panel call in, or you can do a normal, just like a call. That's the normal call, and then it's in the link, so you can go in the description. The description of the video has the link. And then here is the panel invite. So there you go. There is the panel invite.
But the point is, America needs to be transfigured.
Yes, and we talked about that. I think we did cover that slightly the other day, because we were talking about jurisdictions and stuff. And it's the reality is that the only future for America is to be transfigured, and this is true for all nations, by the way, not just America. But other nations have other foundations that can root them together. America doesn't have that anymore. Not in 2026. You could have argued in the 90s it still kind of existed. Even in the 80s it still kind of existed. But it was a fading remnant because, again, and no one denies that there was propaganda, Hart-Celler Act. Yes, we all acknowledge that happened. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle, guys.
Also on the flip side is the culture is becoming more homogenous in certain ways. So... the culture is becoming more homogenous in certain ways, like the way we speak. I went to the South, and everybody my age talked like me. It's like nobody had an accent.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up?
Hey, what's up? I'm Prestia. But no, I had to call in. I saw you're from Southwest Washington, Rafa. I'm also from Southwest Washington, so I was like, I have to call in.
Lewis or Cowlitz?
Cowlitz, Clark.
Okay.
Vancouver.
Okay, so you go to HA.
No, I actually don't. I haven't been there, but I live in Spokane now.
Okay, I'm
Oh, that's
also on the east side now.
So you might know if you're Orthodox. You know Father George.
I have had interactions with Father George
Is he at
online.
a Greek parish here? I go to
I think
No,
Antiochian.
he's in
Oh,
Pullman.
okay.
He's in Pullman at St. Catherine's Mission. It's near the university. Somebody at a mission parish I go visit, their child is going to that university, and he asked if I could go check on him. So I guess this fall I'm going to go see Father George face to face for the first time ever.
I didn't even know there was a parish near Pullman. I had no clue.
Yeah,
it's
actually it's mission, but it's also growing pretty rapidly, from my understanding. Last time it's been a year and a half since he was on X, because he used to be on X, and then he quit X. But he last time I spoke to him, and he was very friendly. He said that they were on track. They were on track to like triple, like their size. And I imagine, based on what we've seen across the board across the United States, he probably hasn't slowed down in growth. So
no, but there is a weird thing about college town parishes, is that they grow and then they shrink, and then they grow and then they shrink.
Yeah,
so
there is some level of truth to that, because people move out. But Spokane is a college town to a degree, but there is
Pullman.
Pullman.
Yeah, although Moscow is right across the border, and Father George wants to build a parish in Moscow, but Doug Wilson is stopping him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. There's a big controversy.
Doug Wilson
about that.
runs that town like a mafia.
Is he in Moscow?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah, well, because
Doug
Wilson controls that
play.
entire town. The amount of real estate they own in Moscow is absolutely insane. Actually,
yeah, and they have like 2 people on the board of the city, and that town's run by that cult.
Is that Doug Wilson, the Christian nationalist?
Yes.
Yeah.
No way, dude. I remember, because I went to school there, not at the University of Idaho, but I did hear about people talking about that, like some cult. I never knew that was Doug Wilson. That's hilarious.
Yeah, Doug Wilson has a straight up, like, he owns that entire town basically.
So that makes me think, because there's a really nice bookstore, for example. It's a Calvinist, so I'm assuming it's run by him because they have like a little college there.
Was it Canon Press?
Yes.
Yes, that's his outfit.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a different one. Let me see real quick. But yeah, no, it's super interesting. On a side note, though, what I was saying earlier, I go to a parish that's a mission parish of a Russian Orthodox Church monastery from Massachusetts. So I'm under the Moscow Patriarchate.
Yeah. There's
you're from the
there's
not
a
very
Moscow
many
Patriarchate parish in Spokane for some reason.
Most of the Moscow Patriarchate went under ROCOR a couple of years back. Not a couple of years, like maybe 10 years ago. They basically started
almost 20 years ago.
Even longer, right? But the Moscow Patriarchate has a few small little sprinkles here and there still.
It's a little weird. I mean, it's kind of
guys
cool,
should be coming under ROCOR here soon. So
that's not weird as in like the parish is weird, but it's like when I learned that, when I learned that, because I'm getting catechized there currently, and when I learned that, I had to check if it wasn't one of the heretical sects.
No, they're just out of place.
Yeah, I know, it was very weird. The priests there are great. The people aren't great. But
yeah, I'm sure. I thought about
visiting. By the way, is Sword and Shovel.
What?
It's called Sword and Shovel, the one in Moscow. It's a coffee house and bookstore.
Yep, that's his. Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I don't want to.
His wife.
Dude, I love that store. Every time I go there, I go there.
You know what's weird? They're complementarian. They're not. They're complementarian, like almost egalitarian in how they view men and women. It's so weird.
Weird.
They have very odd views about a lot of things. Doug Wilson basically just kind of built his own theology with Calvinism as the bedrock, but then he just started just arbitrarily deciding what he wanted to accept and what he didn't want to accept, and so he just built his own little mini cult there. And I've heard some horror stories. I mean, it's kind of like Jehovah's Witness level. Like, you leave that church, the entire community kind of shuns you. It's pretty bad.
He's on record saying that if a husband decides to go Orthodox, his wife should divorce him.
Really?
Yeah, he's on record saying that.
Where did he say that? I'd be interested in seeing that. Where did he say
I
that?
definitely wouldn't doubt that he said that. Calvinists, especially online, they just hate
Oh, they
Orthodox.
absolutely despise Doug Wilson, Eastern Orthodox. I thought that would have been like circling around all over the place. 14 years ago, he did a Ask Doug. Ask Doug Eastern Orthodoxy 15 years ago. Full preterism. He hasn't really covered us very much. He kind of avoids us.
Well, because he's busy bullying one of our priests.
That's true. Well, he's a Christian nationalist. He said that he would ban processions.
Yeah, no, this is why I am so leery of Christian nationalism in America.
Correct.
It's ecumenist at its core, and I don't like that Orthodox people are trying to get in bed with these people. It's like they hate you.
It's just buzzwords, frankly, and all these people. I mean, when you see people saying they want Christian nationalism, they haven't really thought past the initial.
This is who Doug Wilson is. So somebody in the chat was asking. This is Doug Wilson.
Yeah,
you'll immediately recognize him. He did a lot of debates in the mid 2000s.
He's a liturgical Calvinist.
Dang, Doug Wilson Christchurch in Moscow, Idaho.
Yep,
that is crazy. I'm going there tomorrow. I'm going to Moscow tomorrow to play a show at the Kenworthy, and I'm going to see their. That's a theater there. And I'm going to see their. I'm going to see their little church. That sucks, dude. Because now I'm not going to.
It's not a little church. They rent out a big.
They're huge. They're estimated between 900 to 2,000 members. I don't know what.
Yeah.
It says size and growth. The congregation has experienced significant growth, with reported attendees reaching about 2,000 for a city of Moscow, Idaho.
I think that's like 10% of that whole city.
That is with a
little less than 10%.
That's crazy. Yeah, because it's the new St. Andrew's College that I think it's associated with that bookstore, which I assume is associated with his little with his denomination.
Yeah, but you got to also remember this. That's one of his churches. He has several churches, like branch churches, probably within the surrounding area as well. For people
I think Joel Webben is like loosely associated with him too.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he went on Joel Webben's show and all that stuff.
Yeah. But you know,
they have a fairly young population, but that's probably because it's a college town, right? 25.7 years old.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the people that run that bookstore too are like the workers. They're obviously all a part of the St. Andrew's College. And so I've actually tried talking to them about their Calvinism. They're a bit
Pete Hegseth. Someone said Pete Hegseth is a member of Doug Wilson's church.
Gross.
No way.
Pete Hegseth.
Man, that's a bummer. I love that bookstore. That's a bummer.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All right. What does Luigi have to say?
Oh yeah. Let's continue. Yeah.
British English. So we have our own language. We have our own culture. There's actually subcultures within. People say there's no white culture. You've never been to the South.
Yeah, but I have. I'm going to be real with you guys. I have no meaningful connection to Southern culture at all. They're like an alien to me. I grew up that way.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit more connection because I grew up around people that are descended from people from the South, but
I would never guess that they were descended from there because I feel, I mean, in the Pacific Northwest, it feels very, cut off.
Well, Lewis
is 3 people max? No, it should be. Let me check. It should be upwards to 9. So yeah, we can have up to 9 people.
Lewis and Cowlitz County are both founded by like Southerners.
I would have never guessed that. That's crazy. Because my family comes from Indiana, other than Germany.
Yeah, there are Scots Irish from Indiana too. I mean, so half of my family is that, but like the towns, they're like Centralia, Chehalis, those are both founded by Southerners.
That's crazy, actually. Yeah. It's interesting too, because as you go, there's a lot of like little Lutheran, not settlements, but churches and such. And so
there was lots of like free evangelical Lutherans who fled the Midwest and the South.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the churches I went to when I was growing up, they had a charter, and it was like a free evangelical Lutheran charter, and only in the German half did it say that they were Lutheran,
Really?
not the English half.
Because I've also seen, like, if you go toward Hawkinson, for example, like there's an old apostolic Lutheran church, the more kind of extreme Lutherans.
Yeah, there's one of those up near Winlock.
But there is, you are right in terms of at least the accent. There is a big there. You can tell some of the Southern influence because you see a lot of the boomers, for example, they'll say Washington.
Sorry, Nicholai.
You'll hear like a Southern twang. It's interesting.
Sorry for the local ball knowledge of Southwest
No, it's
Washington.
okay. That's you guys are part of the chat. We're just having fun here. There we go. I gotta make you a little bit bigger there, Counterdocs. There we go.
Yeah,
See,
no,
Rumble Studio, it's not quite as neat as StreamYard yet. They still have you have to finagle with people's camera controls. It's a little more dynamic though. You definitely have the more.
There might be a way to do presets.
There is, but I haven't had the chance to fiddle with it yet. So, Counterdocs, what's up, brother?
How's it going, guys?
Doing good. We're reviewing Ben Luigi's some of his clips that have been going around.
Have you seen the recent one? The recent stream he did? I think it was hilarious.
I think that's worth watching.
Which one?
I didn't watch it, but even his own people were pushing back. Like he titled it "The White Race and Orthodoxy," and he was quoting Father Seraphim Rose on supporting certain ideologies.
Right here. Yeah, so episode 4, Orthodoxy, the White Race, and Father Seraphim Rose. Here's a little clip. I'm sure that this is a clip that's going a little viral. Yeah, I like Luigi. I've talked to him. I think he's really smart when it comes to theology. He's done some excellent debate stuff. I do have a problem with...
The race stuff's a little wacky.
Well, I think the race... Well, it's not even wacky. It's just the race stuff... and this is a critique that I made earlier. I have a video even critiquing that race as a concept is just kind of incoherent. If we're going to be consistent.
Yeah. I mean,
the problem is no one can define it in a way that is with specificity, right?
There is an importance to culture in that aspect, but to idolize or focus on race in that sense, you also alienate saints. Like I look up to Saint Moses the Black a lot, for example. Mm-hmm. And so you run into that problem, right? And it's.
Do you want to know a fun fact?
Yeah, go ahead.
Africans, Africans, don't consider Black Americans as Black.
That's true. No. Yeah, that's true.
They're white people.
Yes, but that's because there's a lot of admixture that happened, and they blended together a bunch of different groups. Yeah. But that being said, and this is what's really interesting. I think this needs to be noted, is that when it comes to race, I think everybody would basically universally criticize whenever a Black person makes racial grievance politics and brings that into Orthodoxy, right? So recently there was a video that was released by Sig, who is now on X, by the way.
Yeah.
And Sig basically says white supremacy is a unifying factor for the Black experience in the UK and in America, and therefore that's something that can bring us that understanding of what we've suffered can be seen and healed in Orthodoxy, blah blah. And I'm just I have a problem with importing race grievance politics into Orthodoxy as a means to attract Black people. But by the way, this is the same thing that I have a problem with white people, quote unquote white people. Again, I don't like the term white, but this is the same problem I have with this white identitarian politics being injected into American. Listen, Orthodoxy has no meaningful connection to America in a deep sense. No. I know that there's a lot of guys out there trying to be like Philip Ludwell, we have a connection. It's dude, one guy that converted, one guy who had no meaningful impact on the long term. Philip. No offense to Philip.
But here's the thing. Hey, Nicholai, I just think it's
none of his children were Orthodox at the end of their life.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
I just think it's a really dumb thing to push, especially with the current stage of the faith in the States, because we have so many people who are Middle Eastern and Slavs that were classically considered inferior by a certain group of people. And I just think
Oh, yeah.
it's super dumb to push this, especially with by the way, I came here to escape all of this, and I didn't expect that this to happen. And then when I first saw some of Luigi's stuff, I liked it because it's like he seems to be a very smart guy against Roman
Yes.
Catholics and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I think the whole thing started when I think by Charlie Kirk's assassination, and he was
It really radicalized a lot of people. Yeah.
yeah. And then he started to endorse Patriot Front, and ever
Yeah,
since
and I'm sorry, Patriot Front is so obviously a even if not every single person in it is an op, they're clearly an op because
that
listen,
was one
I
of the
grew up.
groups funded by the SPLC.
yeah, okay, well there you go.
One thing that should be
Sorry.
noted, too-
Yeah, but
I
that's just
knew
my
they were
point there.
feds.
one thing that should be noted also, I mean, just the premise of what's going on, saying, making it, like you said earlier, Nicholai, about the fact that Irish people weren't even considered white, Italians weren't considered white.
No.
I mean, there is an institutional aspect, of course, to pushing these things, but you even look at that and you see already that white people from all these different cultures and backgrounds, like Irish, Italian, whatever, now having this homogenized identity as one white race when they
Arabs are white according to the U.S. government.
I'm saying you can look at that and you can see already that is already an aspect of an institutionalized effect. Where now
In 1970, Mexicans were considered white. There was no Hispanic white and then non-white Hispanic. Hispanics were rolled into the white population. So actually, when someone says we are 90% white, well, Hispanics were counted as white in the census up until I think the 1990s is when they divided them and said, oh, they're their own category. So we actually don't have a super it could have been closer to 80 to 70% white even at that time period, simply because Hispanics were lumped in as that. And that's not even getting into the fact that what Rafa just said, which is Arabs for a long time were considered white. I think they might still be considered white. Is that not true,
They
Rafa?
are still considered white in terms of college applications.
Interesting.
In the census, are they?
I think in the census, yes, too. But the reason they're considered white is because the first Arabs who came to America were Christians.
Yes.
Okay, by the way, so the census, I studied it before. If you look at the Hispanic population, there's actually still labeled as non-European white.
No, there's two categories though.
Yeah, so now what I'm saying is that there's now two categories. So before there was one category, and then they splintered them off into two, which is non-European white, right? Which is still a delineation, right?
Well,
but the broader point that I'm trying to make with that, I think we just lost Counterdocs. Here, I'll let him back up. The broader point that I'm trying to make with that is actually that is that the American identity has never been a clear-cut, super, anybody. You're not American unless you're somebody from the Mayflower, right? That's kind of what a lot of people are trying to make it out to be.
Prior to the Civil War, you identified more with
your state,
the state you grew up in.
Yeah.
You were a Virginian. You were a Massachusettser. You were, from Illinois.
That's why Robert E. Lee. That's why he fought with the Confederates. He said
because he was a Virginian first.
Yeah.
If Virginia had gone with the
North
Union, he would have fought for the Union. So, exactly. and that was true for a lot of people, by the way. A lot of generals only joined because there's which way their state went, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I'll add just one more point as well on my side. Not going to get all conspiratorial, but I mean, it's very basically obvious that there's psyops going on with these things. You can already see this kind of homogenous thing going on in Europe, especially too, where all of these like Slavs are different from people from Spain and people of
Absolutely.
Germanic origin. But now you have this thing going on where it's, oh, we're one European people against
Yes.
Islam and this and that. Which, yeah, there are good things about. Obviously, you don't want Islam flooding Europe. However, now it's becoming this whole other thing where it's just one identity, and that ties into a whole lot of other things. And it's
this
obviously
pan-Europeanism.
the
They
wrong
call it
word, but you know what I mean, kind of in that sense.
Yeah. It's pan-Europeanism. They're adopting this sort of broad sense of, and what my argument has always been is that by adopting a pan-Europeanism, this kind of generic terminology of white or pan-Europeanism, what you end up doing is actually dissolve meaningful distinctions between groups of people.
Absolutely.
You actually destroy what makes those people unique. And I thought the whole purpose of like the identitarian movement was to preserve the differences between groups of
Absolutely.
people, and yet what they're doing is they're ending up they end up actually doing the opposite. Is they say, well, in order to win, we have to fight back. No, actually, pan-Europeanism has been horrible for Europe. It's because of the pan-Europeanism that France, who is retarded, right, can dictate the future of Poland, for example, or Hungary, or whoever else, right?
And
Well,
it's
wrestles
the
with all of
cultural
it.
side of it too, obviously, with what we just talked about. But there's the institutional side, which is the Schengen, EU, things like that. And so it's really for them killing two birds with one stone by creating a homogenous EU identity now, where you can. There's nothing like you can't distinguish now someone from the Netherlands versus someone from Romania, and it's it's just tearing down cultural differences, because there are very unique and special cultural differences. My wife is Romanian. And so it's like you can see the difference between Romanian people and someone from Ireland, and it's obviously
massively different.
It's not organic. This thing it's very much so pushed in a sense, right?
Yeah, and so this is why, as much as I like Ben, I think that that is a major criticism I have, is that he's not providing a actual definition that is solid, that is going to give people a vision for what America is going to look like. Here's what America is going to look like in the future. It is going to be a hodgepodge of different groups of people who create very distinct, hyper-centralized ethnic identities with a plurality of white people, right? With a plurality of white people. And so if you want America to stay unified, this is just my opinion. If you want America to stay unified, the question is how do we get these people to agree on some core foundational beliefs and traditions and things of that nature? Well,
Right.
the way you do that is through religion. You develop culture. You create culture. And so you need thought leaders that are going to not exclude these groups. You're not going to get rid of all the Asians that are here. Sorry. I know you're not going to get all the Hmongs to go back to Laos. You're not going to get all the Vietnamese that fled Vietnam during Saigon to go back to Saigon, right? You're not going to get all the Chinese that are here, that have been here since the Maoist revolution, to go back to China. You're not going to get, you know what I mean? Like, and the list goes on and on. And these are people that have been here for a couple generations now. Some of the new people you can get to go back, some of the new people, and that might help the demographics a little bit. But we're talking about, like, long term, unless you reverse the birth rates of the white population and get them to get positive birth rate numbers, demographics is destiny, dude.
I will say a couple points to that, actually. I think I saw something recently where it showed for the first time that there was a positive turn in birth rates for white people compared to other races. But that's kind of besides the point.
It's still not above replacement.
It's not above replacement. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be completely religious based. And you can see there was a chart or some study that came out where it showed. I think it was in terms of people reproducing, in terms of age as well. Boomers, all the generations that are currently in X religion, and then I think as well as conversions. And you can see that the future of America at this point is going to be obviously religiously based to Hinduism, Islam, and Orthodoxy. Those are the three that are growing. in that
Yeah.
sense. And so,
Well, Islam and Hinduism are artificially propped up because of immigration. So
oh, yeah,
if you get somebody that can cut off the spigot, they'll slowly wither, because they have a net convert decrease. The only reason they increase is because of immigration and birth rates.
yeah.
But they have so many people that convert out of those religions, they don't last very long. Plus, it only takes a couple legal challenges to them, and their communities start eating each other alive. Because you got to remember, another thing with Islam is that the Pakistanis don't get along with the Arabs, and the Arabs don't get along with that. So those groups aren't unified enough to ever pose a major threat. And that's the same thing with the Indians. They're going to import a lot of their caste system behavior, and so that's not. So there is some good news in that Orthodoxy has the advantage long term. But that still doesn't change the fact that demographics is destiny. And listen, we're going to have to accept the fact that we are going to have to deal with the fact that white people are not destined to be a 90% ever again. It's just not going to happen. Nathaniel gave 10, says, can't call in because I'm going to sleep soon, but on the subject of race, I'd like to recommend reacting to the video Lavater did on race realism versus religion. Sure. I mean, let me pull it up here on my other half of my screen here and see what Lavater race. Let's see here. Race realism versus religion. Might have to do it at another time though, because I don't want to. If it's a longer video, I'm gonna want to like do my due diligence on it. Okay, I see a channel here.
It's a little man.
Oh yeah, the right wing cannot avoid this issue anymore. 22 minutes. Okay, yeah, I definitely will look at that. We quickly want to react to a little bit more from Ben. It's not too long of a video, so I think we can do that. But I wanna go over a couple more things with Ben. Some of the clips he had, and then we'll go over that, guys. I think it's a worthwhile topic to discuss because it is such a touchy subject, and I think it does. You guys hear about the Muslim city plan for Texas? Yeah, I think that's going to get opposed in the courts though, because I don't think you can. As much as I hate the anti-discrimination and segregation laws, I don't know how they get around that. I don't know how they can create a city of their own where they exclude other people and then have their own Sharia courts and things. I just don't know how that's going to pass.
Well,
legal muster.
The thing that they won't be able to do is Sharia courts, but they could definitely build their own community because they just have to buy the land and just rent it out to relatives.
Well, but by the way, why aren't Orthodox doing this? I keep on saying this. Like, why are we Orthodox not everyone buying all the land around their parish? You should be buying every single piece of land around that parish as much as possible, building your own businesses, building your own schools, building all this stuff. This is what Orthodox communities need to start doing.
Yeah, well,
nepotism. We have to do exactly what they're doing. This is keep the money within your community. This is why, like, for the investors with my AI product that I'm trying to find Orthodox investors preferably.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Right?
No,
because
if your church is on a city block, buy the block.
Exactly. So, let's continue with what he says here. So, universities across the West celebrate every heritage and every demographic except one that built it. White Christian men. For us, we're told we must deracinate our identity and cheer while everyone else is championed.
Christian, quote unquote.
I agree. I agree to a degree that yes, young men in America, especially from European descent, are expected to deracinate, and I agree with that. Like, we're supposed to abandon our culture. We're not supposed to be proud of what our ancestors built. We're not supposed to be, but that all is meaningless if it's not rooted in orthodoxy, right?
Yeah.
Saying white Christian is generic. Like, what do we include Mormons? Mormons are overwhelmingly white. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So.
and who is a Christian? I'm waiting for Father Peter to come out with that one.
Oh man, I know. He's been working on that for a while, but we'll see. I hope they do have it finished up. I know that they're doing a lot of interviews. They did a lot of travel because that's part of the reason he was in Greece recently, I believe, was to do some filming for that as well. So let's listen to this.
The Jews do. They deracinate your entire identity.
Okay. All right. Right away. This is what I want to mention something, but I'll let him finish and then I'll mention it. Oh my gosh.
See, everybody else gets to have their identity. If you go to a university, you can bring all of your experiences, all your cultural heritage, all the oppression you've experienced, all of it, and everybody will listen. Unless you are a white Christian male, then you have to. Nope, you can't think about race. You can't talk about your religion. You just need to shut up and listen to the black women that are speaking. That's how someone of my demographic is treated in universities. My experiences don't matter. My cultural heritage doesn't matter. My race isn't even real. There's no such thing as whiteness. Oh, really? Then why have you guys been talking about eliminating whiteness for the last several decades if there's no such thing as whiteness? What is this that you've been trying to eradicate? What is this that you've been teaching children and students in university that they need to get rid of? They need to get rid of their whiteness. What is that? What is the whiteness in question? If race doesn't exist, neither does racism, by the way. That's a quick little, if someone says, oh, race doesn't exist, you say, okay, so racism doesn't exist? Because that logically follows from that. Well, clearly that's ridiculous.
So the first thing that I want to mention, and I'll go in backwards because I'm going to go from least controversial to most controversial, okay? I agree with the essence of what he's saying is that, yes, we're expected to shut up and listen to this victim oppression Olympics. However, the solution is not to create our own oppression Olympics of saying, well, we feel like we should be allowed to express the fact that I'm discriminated against as a white guy. Yeah, but that doesn't do anything for me.
Can you guys hear me, by the way? Check.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we can hear you. Cool. That doesn't do anything for me as a white guy. Living in America, being like, I'm oppressed, doesn't do anything for us, right? It just harms. It's a black pill, and we don't want black pills. We want white pills, right?
It is a black pill, and I do agree with this sentiment because I'm 24, so I was in college not long ago, and so I did experience it, and you see it. When I was looking for internships, like in finance, you'd see that some internships, which I didn't even know how it's legal, but some were only open to people that were of Latin, Latina, or black.
By the way, the government overtly discriminates on government contracts. If you have a business that is an IT business that's owned by a minority, you get preferential treatment for subcontracting positions. So if my company wanted to bid for some of these subcontracted positions with the government, I couldn't even do it because I'm not a minority.
Yeah. And I saw it too. Even in the private sector, I worked at a large wealth management firm, and that was one thing that I would hear the HR people talking about is how their next hire, they're looking to hire either more women or more women of like people of color, and it's like it's nothing to do with merit or anything like that. It's obviously this is an institutional thing, right? They get handouts for it as well for reaching these things. But yeah, you are right in the sense that taking the black pill is not the way to go. It's like,
no, the way to go is to offer a vision for the future that people can buy into, and I just don't buy into that. Now, that's the first thing that I want to say, which I think, like, again, there is some truth that you have to highlight the problem, which he's doing. The problem is what's the solution? What is the solution?
Well, really, the big thing is this lands on parents, man. Mostly, it's like people have to tell their kids the importance, first of all, obviously, of the church, because that's not something even in Orthodox circles I see a lot of times. Not at the parish I attend now, but back home in Portland, a lot of people and like a lot of their kids don't go to church, nothing, because they're not expected to. And so the other part of it too is, especially in the Romanian community, I will say specifically in Southwest Washington, Portland, whatever, there is a big emphasis on, go to college, this, that. And they don't put as much importance to women, especially on having children and getting married at a young age. I would hear people, say because I got married at a young age with my wife, 23. And so, people are like, man, that's really young. You sure? And it's like, yeah, I'm sure. And so I would blame mostly on parents. And it's something that hopefully young Orthodox parents, people my age, people your guys' age, etc., are able to, do that, because that's where the change really comes from.
Orthodoxy, which he is mentioning, and I appreciate that. But here's another thing that I have a problem with, and gosh, that is controversial for YouTube, but it's still going to be said. It needs to be said. Blaming the Jews for everything is not going to resolve the problems that you're experiencing in your country.
True.
I'm just saying. Listen, it can be true that certain groups have certain ideologies that they promote and things of that nature. You want to know who also promotes division and undermining American identity in America? Chinese.
That's very true as well. Sponsored typically by the CCP.
Yes. In fact, the Chinese use there's over 1 million Chinese children living in China today that have U.S. citizenship, dual passports, and they vote in our elections.
They do it in Canada as well, and you could see the infiltration in our universities. In that sense, because they'll send their kids. A lot of the oligarchs in China.
Which, by the way, this is why the Indians aren't long. They aren't long to live in some of these countries, because if China has their way, they would get rid of all the Indians. They are not the biggest fans of the Indians.
But seriously, if you go, for example, to Vancouver, Canada, or not in Alberta, but in Vancouver, Canada specifically, or Victoria, it's a lot of kids, of oligarchs going to these universities, like the University of Vancouver, I think it's called, and they'll go and they get these educations, they'll buy, flats, whatever it is, and you can see that there's a direct, connection there. And so obviously it's convenient to look at one issue and then just totally ignore the other elephant in the room there as well. But then also, like you said, just calling it out and just saying that, it's not going to really help much. It's about what.
And also, like, what is the okay? Your average Jewish person has no idea what's going on.
Right.
The random civilian that's walking down the street in Tel Aviv is not. You know what I mean? Like I can't wait to destroy these silly goyim. It's just not what's happening.
Well, also, most people in Israel, for example, don't like Netanyahu. And that's something that people ignore. They don't even look at a lot of times. And so they'll just say, oh, it's it's them. And it's like, not all people feel that way, obviously. The same way.
You just can't leave me, can you? You can't leave me, Counterdox. You got to come back. I know.
No, my parents are visiting, so I'm trying to, but I'll just finish this and I got to leave. So I think, because it's clear that he bought into the narrative that the Jews are trying to destroy the white race. And we know that's just kind of absurd at this point. And I think a lot of people are following this because it's a very easy position to believe in, and they're really just intellectually lazy. But I've been trying to convince people that no, that's not necessarily the case. That's happening. There's like layers of elites that are doing this stuff.
By the way, it's your own. I want to emphasize this, Counterdox. Our own elites, our own ethnic groups who control our countries, they're the ones that they agree to all of this. It's our elites hate us too. Yeah. Just like, by the way, the Russians, everyone likes to blame the Bolsheviks for majority of the Bolshevik leadership were Jewish. Yes, there's some truth to that. But guess what? 20% of the Russian population supported the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks would have had no power if they weren't given that power by the people. This is why it's actually better to call out dispensationalism and not call random Jewish people. Because dispensationalism is what's giving all the power. Even if we accept their arguments wholesale. If we accept their arguments wholesale, the actual problem is dispensationalism. So that's the better tact to take than just saying the Jews. Well, which Jews? By the way, you know, we guys get these guys that like they sing the praises of Thomas Massey, saying Thomas Massey isn't bought by AIPAC. Thomas Massey's biggest donor to his election is Jeffrey Yass, a Jewish billionaire who is a Zionist.
Yeah.
So what's the meaningful difference? Right?
I'll tell you what, Nicholai. And by the way, if they do this, this is like playing right into what the elites actually want them to do. It's like, and especially what Israel want them to do, which is to regather Israel, because it's they're telling you to hate anybody who has maybe like what 10-20% Jewish DNA. It's not like they don't care about Judaism. They don't practice Judaism. They don't care about the fact that they have that DNA. They're just people. But it's pretty much getting them to just hate these people too. And
well, it drives those people into their arms, by the way.
Exactly.
Well, you have 20%. My great-grandmother was Jewish. That means I'm Jewish by extrapolation. Therefore, I'm the devil incarnate. And then what ends up happening is this Jewish person who, by the way, had no meaningful connection to their Jewish history, suddenly now identifies with it because they're like, well, I'm being oppressed just because I'm a Jew or just because I have Jewish heritage. Well, it's like, what you're doing is you're driving people that normally would have been a net neutral into their arms. And by the way, let's be real, most Jewish people are tangentially related to Europeans in a way that, you know, I know people are like, oh, but the genes, and look at this gene map, and look at the large divide, and like, all right, first off, you cannot use 21st century science, which is 21st century science is weak at best in terms of like, yeah. So it like what, you're gonna worship the lab coats? But the first thing that I want to mention about that is that 21st century science is not exactly the most consistent when it comes to these things. These things have been changing and morphing for over a century now. This like race identitarianism science has been changing for a long time, and genes and genetic codes and things like that. Listen, if your principle that you're applying to any group of people or yourself or anything like that cannot be consistently applied throughout all of history, then it's a useless metric. And what do I mean by that? That means the average Roman didn't like swab your cheek and go, "Are you really Roman?" They said, "No. Like, are you living out what it means to be Roman?" Right? Like, are you Roman? Like, had a very different understanding than simply strict ethnicity. I'm not saying there wasn't an ethnic component to it, but that was like a subcategory of the overarching category of Roman, right? It's the same thing with Greek. It's the same thing with any of these other groups of people. They didn't go around swabbing the cheek of some random dude on the street and say, "Are you? Let's test your DNA to see if you're really Roman." They didn't do that, right?
I gotta add. I gotta interject here with the point. I saw the Jesuit question comment. This is the most retarded thing that most people fall into is these dichotomies of thinking like there's truth to what Luigi's saying. I'm not accusing him of taking this position, but people will fall in this false dichotomy of blaming one side or the other side, and it's like, dude, there's infiltration everywhere, either institutionally and at the lowest levels. And the Jesuits too. I mean, there's a lot of negative influence from the Jesuits all over the world, in America, in Japan, etc. And so it's all of these different sides, and to blame one single group is just creating a straw man up there to go and burn. It's retarded. And
it doesn't pull the roots of the system out. It just takes care of the weed on the surface, and everyone knows if you don't kill the weeds at the root, they're just going to come back stronger. Exactly. By the way, I do want to say this because I'm a nerd and I'm going to go on a slight tangent here. If you really want to kill weeds, use boiling water and pour it over the weeds. It kills the root system. Anyways, let's go. Let's continue. Boiling water, especially on your driveway, just right there in the cracks, it'll kill all the weeds. Has to be boiling though, boiling. Someone said JQ, so I picked up something else. Jesuit question. Ephesians 6:12. Somebody said. I don't know what Ephesians 6:12 is. I'll have to pull it up.
Yeah, but the root of all of this obviously is you can boil it
Sin.
obviously down to sin. And then even if you want to look at a macro level, it's really about money and power. And so you just look at, what groups are controlling these things. And to act like America, for example, is not implicit in, Israel's, actions or anything. Obviously, they're intertwined at the political level and et cetera. But to act like the American politicians are not, like, they're just puppets. They know what they're doing. They're just as guilty of this. And
they just want money and power. And
Exactly.
listen, okay, I always ask people this, and let me ask you guys on the panel this, okay? If I were to snap my fingers and all Jewish power loses its influence around the world, they become a irrelevant nothing, what happens tomorrow? Do we live in utopia?
They're just going to get replaced.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the power vacuum gets filled with other evil actors who will do the exact same stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
The devil does not have his favorite group. He uses whatever group or person who is willing to hand their ideology and life over to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Canaanites, whether it is the Babylonians, whether it is Islamists, the Arabs, whether it is the Jesuits, the Italians, the Venetians when they sacked, right? The Papal States, the Mongolians.
Yeah, the Golden Horde, and it's people too. Maybe it's a 80 IQ thing for people just to fall into. It's the fact even in this case, it's like, oh, Russia must be really good, like Putin must be awesome because this and that, and it's completely retarded to not. I don't know how people don't see, for example, the evil things on all corners of the earth. You even see in the UK the way they're acting, Ireland, all these different politicians in every single country. It's like acting like there's a single good government entity. Is ridiculous. Or institutional, for that matter.
Come on.
I hate the government.
Hold on, guys. You guys talk real quick. I'll be right back.
I just hate the government.
I'm just saying it's not targeted towards necessarily have to target towards one race. Yes, they would do that if that's necessary, but like they see all of us as cattle, so they don't really give a shit. We lose our culture or anything. Obviously, in some cases, like European descended people, yes, there was an interest for them to lose their cultural dominance, obviously, but that's not the point. They just see all of us as cattle. Either way, they're going to retain whatever they want. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And frankly, I mean, in that case, the matter, there are, again, it's like, I'm kind of digressing, but in that case, the matter, you have other cultures in this world as well that look at, for example, all Americans blanketly as stupid and cattle, etc. Not even just related to that. I mean, it's, I don't know, creating these false dichotomies and falling into them it's tale as old as time, I guess. It's ridiculous how easy people fall into it,
Yeah, I mean, again, like people with this sort of view, it's I understand because it's so easy, right? It's like it's easy to just blame one group, but he doesn't realize by doing that he's actually grouping himself into exactly what the elite want him to do.
Exactly, it's controlled. It's a psyop. It's a controlled thing, and it's like, I also saw too the posts you made, Counterdocs, on YouTube. I think it was today, maybe the memes. Those are pretty funny. But
which one?
The one with the flags and was showing the dogs.
Oh yeah, there's that.
That one was funny. Totally. I mean, not technically random, but yeah. And it's people too. They just want someone or something to blame. They don't look inward, and so it's not like these things would be successful. For example, if everybody had their ducks in order it's easier said than done, of course, but people just want something to blame. People just want something to cast under the guillotine or something like that. So it's
but like again, my focus right now is it's like I want to grow the church. Like I have a small ass mission church. We can't even buy a building. So like, well, I volunteer for 2 parishes that can't buy a building. One of them barely paid the rent. So one's Russian, one's Serbian. So it's like we have all this problem, and you're promoting this sort of stuff like within. I just don't understand what is the driving force for him to do that. I mean,
it could be.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can finish that sentence.
No, I know a lot of converts who thinks that they can just replace the Masonic Protestant sort of nationalism with orthodoxy. But I always ask them, okay, well, so if you say all these elements are foreign to quote Americanism, then so is Orthodoxy. So where's the ought there?
Yeah,
And,
they join the church with their intrinsic, idols already, ideologies as well.
Yep.
And so yeah.
I mean, the first place somebody has to change is their heart.
Exactly. And the other thing too, actually, pointing out what you said, Kenardox, the normies, the people, 90% of the people or whatever, percentage, when they see stuff like this, it's not really going to push them in the direction that, you want them to go. And so I'm not demonizing Luigi. I don't really watch his stuff or anything. I don't really know his positions or stances.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just going to alienate people, and it's going to push people to one side of an extreme, especially the normies. They're afraid of, encountering things that are a bit, harder to wrap their minds around most of the time, or things that they're afraid of even going into. And so it's just going to put them to the other side, especially like these boomer evangelicals and such. They're so dispensationalist. They're so, Israeli bound. It's like, they're not going to see that and really listen to your argument.
These are the people, by the way, who yes, you said that they're normies. They are normies. They're like the people who just figured out about the Jews, and it's like everything they know. That's like, oh, I finally got this shit. But I'm just saying, in like maybe like another 7 years, 8 years, there's going to be another great awakening, and it's going to be something else. And
yeah, exactly.
Well, and we can hope it's Orthodoxy, but it probably won't be.
No,
I mean, but you can see even like in America, not long ago, in the 19th century, maybe even in the 20th century for the most part, it exists. But going back to the Jesuits comment, one of the growing up in my circles, it was the Jesuits this, the Jesuits that, and so it will just shift hands again to whoever these people latch on to immediately, and they don't look at the actual foundation of this whole problem, and just blaming one people group or one, it's not fruitful.
Well, the foundation starts in your heart. That's the point that a lot of saints make is, what are you like? To quote Saint Gabriel of Georgia, what are you like?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which also goes back to my original comment too regarding the fix. It's like parents need to obviously raise their kids in the right way so that they go the right way. I don't remember the exact Bible verse there. I think it's in Proverbs.
Raise them up so they walk in the ways that are right.
Yes, yeah. And so it really just goes back to the most basic fundamental thing of make sure your household is in order, make sure you're in order. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect at that. I'm very guilty at my passions, etc. But that is really where this all comes into play. And it's like, people want to, again, look at the large picture. They want to just cast some kind of, straw man or Burning Man or whatever you call it. I don't remember the exact term. But they don't want to look inward, like you said. It starts, again, at your own self, and then obviously your household, and then, your church, etc., your parish.
My priest had a good, it's not exactly on this topic, but he was talking about charity. And he says to hand over your charity to someone else is a dereliction of duty. So to hand over, like, to depend on these big organizations to fix things is a dereliction of our duty. If we acquire the spirit of peace, thousands around us will be saved.
Yeah.
Like, we should be aware of this stuff. We should, like, not be, completely ignorant. But we should also not, expect this stuff to fix us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like what Nicholai says. I mean, I think this, like, we're on the same page. We want to try to keep the status quo and not go into full, stupid war stuff. While this continues to happen, we have time to evangelize people and stabilize ourselves.
Vigo, I know I did not mean Burning Man or Straw Man. I'm not referring to either of those. There's a specific term I was looking for, and I can't remember what it is.
An effigy. Burning an effigy.
That's it. So,
and Burning Man is an effigy.
So I'm laughing at your comment. It was funny, but and also Rome Shepherd. It's not about not pointing bad things out, but it's there's a big problem again of people just casting blame on whatever, and it's not looking at really the fundamental roots of these issues. And so it's like, again, these normies just fall into whatever, you know,
Is
whatever way they just
noticing
get
going to
pushed.
get you to heaven? Is noticing going to get you to heaven? Like what's going to get you to heaven? And then when you're in heaven, you can pray. Then you can pray for the whole country.
Yeah, and you can point out bad things, of course. It's not, yeah, it's not about that, but it's.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking personally on the micro level. I'm just talking macro, and it's like, and I'm not demonizing Luigi. I have no clue his stance on most things, so it's not. I'm not even referring to him specifically, but there are a lot of people that I know, and then online that, you know, they just look at specific little things and they just want to obsess on one issue and not look at the whole thing as a whole. And so that's really what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
yeah.
These are whole issues.
I don't really care about them doing this. It's like I don't think this movement within Orthodoxy is going to grow significantly, but I do think that it's going to be eventually used by some, because they're already doing this, right? That we're all Russian spies and shit. So
I haven't got my paycheck yet.
Use this as some sort of dumb infiltration tactic and some, some those type of strategies.
There are psyops behind it. And all these things are, not all of them, but a lot of these things are Fed run. And so Rome Shepherd, you said it sounds pretty passive. There's nothing passive about it. Again, like I said, there's something wrong with pointing out the bad things. But again, a lot of these things are not organic movements. A lot of these things are Fed run in the sense that they're just making you burn an effigy of whatever, and then tomorrow it'll be something else. I know there are bad things, obviously, with Israel, etc. Not saying there's not, but again, not looking at it as a whole level. It's retarded.
It's also a distraction to keep you to put your eyes on the world. It's a distraction to put your eyes on the world.
Yeah, it's an idolology. I think
Yeah.
maybe it was you that said that a stream or two ago, Rafa, but there was a saint, or maybe it was just a priest that coined that term, idolology. Idol. I don't know what the word is. Ideology of an idol.
You know, you keep your mind in hell and your heart in heaven, and you'll be saved. This narrows your view down to a horizontal view.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, I gotta go. You guys take care.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. The owner of this little cafe place was wanting to talk to me for a while. He was like, "Hey, like, oh, you're American. Like, I speak English," and it was like kind of broken, and he wanted to like practice his English. I was like, "Okay, I'll humor him."
Nothing wrong with that.
But anyways, yeah. So, anyways, guys, what did you guys mention? Did you just guys talk a little bit more about?
Well, we talked about how this is all a distraction, and that it's meant to narrow your view of the world down to merely a horizontal a horizon, and not a vertical.
Yeah. And it's easy, again, to obsess over these things and not look at what actually matters, which is what you said, Rafa. It's like looking inward and then also looking at your household and making sure these things are in order.
Things you can actually fix.
Yeah. And Rome, if you want to call in and talk about it, please do so.
Who called?
It was just somebody in the comments that was just making, just talking in the comments. Nothing bad, but, if you do want to talk about it, just come in and chat.
No, yeah, no one's. Yeah, no, the call-in link is available. So I'm gonna pull this up because we're gonna talk about this in a second. But like at the end of the day, oh wait, somebody is calling. Jake is calling. Sorry, Jake, go ahead. What's up?
No
worries. Hello.
Hey, Jake, what's up?
Oh, I just had a question. I noticed you guys were talking about like.
One second. You guys can hear him, right?
I can hear him.
Got it. All right, go ahead, Jake.
I noticed they were talking, and you guys were talking about like kind of the controversy. I've been following the controversy with, like, it seems like very divided among like I'm not saying this is like a kind of a debate. I just noticed that like within Orthodoxy, a lot of people are debating like this idea of like white nationalism. So I think it's pretty interesting that they're like, some people are very like, like Luigi, like, very hard on it. And then other people are very much the opposite, saying, oh, it's racism. So I kind of was just like I was listening. I kind of was just trying to understand more, like why are people so like divided on it?
I mean,
Well, I
okay.
mean, it's because, I mean, let's be real. There is real grievances in America where people have been discriminated against because they come from a European background, right? Like, so that does exist. And so people have taken that and said, listen, if I'm being discriminated against, I deserve to have my, like, if everyone else gets to have their racial grievance, I want mine too, right? And so I feel like that's kind of the reason why this is gaining steam, is because there's genuine grievances and genuine concern and about the demographic future of America, and there's anxieties that come with that. And most of them are rightly like they're rightly analyzing the situation. What we're questioning is what is the proper response and solution? That's where the disagreement is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. But I noticed that you I personally well, I used to be friend. He doesn't talk to me anymore, but I personally was friends with Luigi. So I know that he feels very strongly about this issue. I mean, you can tell in the video he said like, oh, like I'm not gonna be associating with people who don't agree with me on this, and I was like, I don't really think like that's necessary to be like that, but
Well, I
um
mean, there's true. Again, Luigi, or let's just say Ben. Ben has. There is truth to what he's saying. My concern, and this is again just a minor pushback, is that are we rushing the Christian, like the Orthodox, like American Orthodoxy, for example? What does that even mean? And I think me and Rafa have talked about this. Like, there isn't an American Orthodoxy yet. That's because it takes centuries to develop the Orthodox phenomena in the culture, and that's after the culture is overwhelmingly Orthodox, right? Where the majority of the population is Orthodox, you know? So,
yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, even among also like, from I don't really have an opinion, so it's just like me watching it. But another thing that's interesting is like the whole debate between like if someone should be like an ortho bro or not. Like I get really, that's something that bothers me. Like this whole
that's
idea.
just slander. Here's my thoughts on orthobro thing. The orthobro thing is such a it's a means in which people use to try and avoid having to have the hard conversations with us and actually debate their views. That's what that is. What now? Is there a subsection of anonymous troll posters who get off on like constantly being like as autistic as possible about certain issues? Yes, but that exists in every group. So when people say the orthobros are a problem, what they really mean is I don't like online culture, and so I'm going to complain about it and misapply it to everybody who claims to be orthodox and takes it seriously. That's what's happening. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. I mean,
I get called an ortho bro. I'm a reader in the church. This is how I talk to people. I don't mince words. That's not my job.
Yeah.
It's I don't like the label because it makes no sense. Because it is a slanderous label that is applied to anybody I don't like.
yeah. I mean that makes sense. I feel like sometimes though it does like it's not good to have like I guess he's labeled in general, but I think the reverse is something else that bothers me is this idea that there's like these I don't know how people define it, but Jay Dyer always says like, oh, there's quote unquote piety signalers, but then he'll act like very disrespectful and rude. But then people want to say that then he'll be like, oh well, don't listen to the piety signalers. It's like, well, either way are wrong
Well,
because like
okay,
you're
listen,
calling them
there's
a piety signaler.
this is what it comes down to. Everybody has their own cup of tea on what attracts them to orthodoxy, right? Like, and some people have, like, for example, my style of apologetics, my style of communication, not everyone's gonna like. And what I tell people is, listen, Jay has his own style and it's very effective for a huge swath of people. There's a reason he's as popular as he is. Jay also is a person. And so he's going to make mistakes. He's going to do things. Maybe he's going to go too far in areas, but that's why he has a spiritual father. And so when my problem with the piety signalers or the quote unquote piety signalers, I think there are some people that have legitimate like criticisms. But you, as an anonymous person, your criticisms mean exactly zero to the person across the screen from you. They don't know who you are, right? The people that matter is people that build a relationship with someone. So, for example, I won't say that I have a relationship with Jay, but I have a cordial relationship with him where I can reach out to him as a fellow creator and somebody who's known him for many, known his content and consumed his content for many years, and he's familiar with me. I've built up enough where I could say, "Hey, Jay, love what you're doing here. I have a slight criticism if you don't mind." And he would be like, "Oh, sure, man. I'll listen to you. I'll listen to your criticism." And then he would push back on me if necessary or not. But if I were just some random dude he doesn't know who said, "Jay, you're being a big meanie head," he's just gonna be like, "Dude, just get out of here. I don't have any patience for that," right? And I'm gonna do the same thing, by the way. And anybody who's in his position would do the same thing. So that's where I tell people, it's like, listen, you can have your criticisms, but it only goes so far. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say in response to that. When, like, for the piety signalers, I understand their critiques. Sometimes Jay's mean. Okay. Right? Like, at the end of the day, move on. Go find somebody that you do like. Right? But really what they want to do is they want to say, I want Jay to act in a way that I personally find agreeable.
Right.
But that's intersubjective, right? Does that make sense, Jake?
Well, I don't think it's subjective if you're saying, because I think you can look, I think anyone can honestly look, this is probably sounds judgmental, but anyone can honestly look at like the way that the saints like are like monastics or priests, and you can see how they talk, and they don't talk like that, like they
but hold on. One, we're not monastics. We're laypersons. Okay, we're monastics are a different vocation. They don't live in the world. They live exterior to the world. They live away from the world, right? And
but these are who we strive to be like, though.
No. We strive towards theosis, right? We don't strive. If you're striving to be a monastic, you should go and live on a monastery. You're striving for holiness, and the monastics demonstrate a lot of holiness, but they have very different ways of living. This is why you won't find a single bishop that tells you, "Hey, it's a good idea to go read the Rudder," or Rafa, what's the other one that they always say? The Philokalia.
The Philokalia, yeah.
Yeah. Why do the bishops tell you not to read that? Because it's for monastics. Right? You're not expected as a person living in the world.
The latter is for people in the world.
Yes, the latter is.
And that should be read with the blessing of your spiritual father and the guidance of your spiritual father. And another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever seen a monk from Serbia talk?
Not from Serbia.
No, because monks from Serbia are mean.
They are a little mean, I'll admit that.
You could argue that St. Paul was pretty mean. I don't think there's anything wrong intrinsically with being mean.
No, the monk, like, you can go up and look up Father Raphael from Serbia. He doesn't mince words. He's very clear and, like, mean.
There's a Greek monastic that called the Pope a heretic to his face.
Yeah, or there's my favorite podcast that everybody should go see, Orthodox Talks with Father Cosmas from Australia.
I think you guys are conflating what I'm saying. I'm not talking about like tone policing or being mean. Like I'm talking about what St. Paul says, speaking the truth in love. I think there's a way to speak the truth in love that Jay Dyer just doesn't do.
Well, hey, here, Jake.
Not to spare the rod in certain ways.
Jay, here, let me put it this way. In my culture where I grew up in small town Minnesota, it was considered extremely rude to mince your words, or it was considered loving to be blunt with somebody. Like, so for example, some people might say, "Hey, you should spare your wife's feelings and tell her, 'Oh, you look great, babe,' even when she doesn't." Where I grew up in is like, "No, you look ugly. You need to change." That's loving because I don't want her to embarrass herself, right? But from an outsider, that could be extremely mean and unloving, right? So, like, a lot of this stuff is intersubjective. Cultural differences matter immensely. And you got to remember where Jay comes from. What does Jay come from? He comes from an academic background in a debate sphere. If you watch how classical debates are, rhetoric, rudeness, being a little bit tough rough around the edges, those things are all techniques to get your point across and defeat your opponent. It's not unloving to adhere to the rules of debate. In fact, it would be unloving to treat them like children and not treat them like that, right? So from Jay's perspective, he's being loving to these people by not treating them like children and saying, no, you're an adult. You shouldn't be committing fallacies. You shouldn't be doing this. So I understand your concern. But I think that it's coming from a very modern, like, kind of soft evangelical, like, cultural milieu where Jesus is our boyfriend, right? And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that that's the cultural milieu I grew up in too. But luckily, my dad was tough on me. My dad didn't mince words. You know how many times I hugged my dad growing up? I could probably tell you on both hands, maybe, how many times I hugged my dad in my entire life. Why? Because my dad doesn't express his love in that way, right? He expresses it in other ways. And there's all kinds of people that do that. So that's what I'd say, is that love is not this strict definition, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I think that is the problem, is that it can be very subjective, but I also think in a way, like, it's not, because I mean, you can look at example, like the saints are examples, right? So you can look at, like, some people point to, one saint, and they'll say, okay, well, that saint was like, John Chrysostom, where he slaps, the heretic, or like punch, like,
that was Saint
St.
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
oh, sorry.
But
Well, I thought it was
But
also.
to be fair, Saint John Chrysostom has some more than a few spicy words to say about heretics.
Well, yeah, I
He's
mean,
pretty brutal.
he wrote on the Jews, which is probably why Ben feels so strongly about the Jews, because I've heard him talk about.
I've read on the Jews, and it is the most tame thing ever.
Oh, really?
It's tame insofar that he has sharp criticisms of them theologically and their system, but he doesn't actually go super hard in, like, you were born Jewish, that means you're just ontologically evil, right?
No, it's all about, like, against the Jews. It's all about, we shouldn't be participating in their rituals. We shouldn't be co-religionists with them. They have no grace. It's like, and it's about the religion. It's not about the race.
Well, I know it's about their religion, but I'm saying he went pretty hard on that. He did go.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Rightfully
If you
so.
look too, I mean, if you
I'm
look at
not-
history,
I'm not
church history,
disagreeing.
if you look at church history throughout all of it, nobody was, like, quote unquote nice to the evangelical standard today. I mean, even if the evangelicals met Jesus, he would not be nice in the way that they want him to be, all passive and everything. It's like,
Well, Dostoevsky was not
Yeah,
always
yeah.
nice, but in Russian culture, he's considered quite a mellow person.
yeah, and it is also cultural, but it's like, yeah, and there was a comment in the chat, I think by Rome or someone, where, I mean, Jay, to speak specifically, he's taking, like, tons of calls each of these streams, and a lot of it's the same question over and over. It's people debating and they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I would lose my temper probably much more than he would.
And he's been doing this 10 years. just for notice, he's had these same questions. So, like, yeah, Jay, by the way, Jay is subject to his spiritual father. I happen to have met his spiritual father. I won't say who. I've even met his confessor priest, who is the same thing as his spiritual father. They are well aware of his shortcomings or not, but that's not our business to speculate on. That's the thing. Jay's effective. His spiritual father will correct him when necessary. It's not our job to be going around and like counter signaling him. If you want to counter signal him, that's fine, but don't expect him to be nice back to you then. You know what I mean?
Or
and Mickey left a good comment
counter signal
too.
him on his theology if you think that's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Mickey left a good comment in the sense that also, being nice all the time is not, in many cases, the right move, because it's not an act of love. If someone's in prelest or someone's being stupid, it's not out of love to just let them keep doing that. You should call that out. You should say something, and you should be firm about it. That actually helps.
To praise Ben, by the way, I want to praise Ben here. He was right about Nick Fuentes early, along with myself, and I remain committed to the fact that Nick Fuentes is retarded. I don't like Nick Fuentes. I think he's dumb. I think he's a flip-flopper, and I think he's done immense harm to young men because he promotes this pseudo weird like cultic incel culture. And I knew this was happening, by the way, back in like 2020-ish, when I was kind of on the tertiary of that, and I was listening into some of his streams, and the guys kept on like going off on the foids. Like, oh, the foids. And they kept on like losing their crap about women all the time. And I was just like, bro, this is like a you're gonna drive out all the married men, and you need married men because they provide stability and a role model for young guys. And I remember at the time Fuentes literally went off on me. I don't know if the stream still exists because he was booted from all of that stuff, but that's what happened. So.
Dude, yeah, it does. I mean, I've literally seen it where dudes will just totally take the black pill, and they'll just, you know, I mean, that also goes to the birth rate too, as well.
Well, then you got these. By the way,
as well.
These are the same guys that will like they'll whine that they don't have any women, and then they'll go around and like say the most like insane thing about women in the general sense, like, oh, all women are this way. It's like, bro, get out of your bubble. Stop going on Tinder.
Totally online, out of shape, and have nothing to offer a lot of times, frankly.
Or they're found doing sodomy.
Oh well, and also let's not even get into it. And Jake, by the way, thanks for your patience. Let's not even get into the fact that a lot of these guys, they're like, I want my virgin waifu who is innocent and never seen another man ever in her life, and she's like, only thing she's seen was the inside of a basement. I want that, but I also want her to magically also be like really good at like sex, and I also want her to magically like do all the things that I do, like I see in the porn, because I'm addicted to porn and I won't admit it. And I constantly whine that I've fallen into these like this pornographic sin, but then I don't have the balls to say, well, I'm actually not as squeaky clean as I expect my quote unquote imaginary future wife to be.
Okay,
right?
I've made this rant several times in the J Dyer Discord, several times.
And by the way, they let it happen because they agree with us.
The type of men that want pure virgins are the type of, it's like, if you're going to be a virgin, you deserve a virgin. If you're like a real virgin, you have to be no porn, no masturbating, nothing like that, to deserve a real virgin. Because historically, those women were reserved for those who are meant to be priests. Historically.
Yeah, I mean that's what the expectation would be, is like you find a pure wife. That's what the priest, because the priests need those types of women in their lives, you know. And by the way, this isn't me. This isn't us saying that you have to like go to like the downtown red light district and like pick the first.
You should find somebody who's in the same position as you, who is actively
growing
trying
in
to
faith
repent and growing in faith, like Rachel and Andrew. People make fun of them. It makes me so mad when people make fun of Rachel and Andrew. Actually, it really does.
People should compare where Rachel and Andrew were like 5 years ago to where they are now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Andrew's made huge.
It's not Christian of Andrew to have married Rachel. It's like, no, that's not true. They're both trying to live lives of repentance. This is admirable, and we should be encouraging it.
Oh, but but what will people say? Oh, he's a cuck for marrying a woman that had previous marriages.
No.
That's what they say. That was, by the way.
I know that's what they say, but it's not true.
Even on an abstract sense, it's not true.
Yeah,
it's complete bullshit.
And it's like the Orthodox would view it as a penitential marriage. They are living a life of penitence together, a life of repentance together. And even like a normal marriage, like with the crowns and everything, that's a marriage of repentance. It's for our salvation. It's an economy God has given us to be allowed to marry.
Right. On a separate note, kind of going back a little bit, Jake, was your main point of contention? What was your main point of contention? Was it just like specifically with Jay Dyer being mean, or like what was that specifically? Just so I know.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like, it's not. I don't know, because the way you say, I guess it's very subjective in a sense, like what he was saying, intersubjective. But like when you guys say like mean, I don't mean in like that kind of like just like being nice, because I'm also a very blunt like person, and I think that it's good to be blunt. But I guess it's, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's more the idea of like Jay will get mad, like, so Jay will like act this sort of way, and he'll get mad and call out the quote unquote piety signalers. But I think both of it is just a losing situation, because like obviously you're calling out the piety signalers, and he doesn't just call them out. He like goes out of his way sometimes to like make fun of them like very much. And
Have you seen the? Sorry to interrupt. Have you seen the like streams where he's calling them out? Like, have you actually watched those portions of them?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I don't know. I don't see the issue with it, because you do, when I've seen them, it's one of those things. I mean, like with the Ruslan thing, it's calling for public repentance for those things. I mean, frankly, it's a point of arguing motives. They don't know his life. They don't know, I don't know his life. I mean, these are just judgments they're casting upon them based on their own subjective views.
Well, I just mean, I think it's hypocritical, because one side's pointing and saying you're a piety signaler, you shouldn't be doing that, and then you're also judging them, and the other side is judging the other side. So it's both.
Let's be fair. Well, let's be fair here. We don't know what's going on in the background, right? There could be all kinds of things that led up to that. That's the first thing. Second thing is that Jay is what I like to call a counter slapper, right? If Ruslan, when Ruslan was treating him well and brought him on his show and they had good conversations, Jay was very polite to them. The moment that Ruslan started siding with all these people that literally attack, by the way, we're talking about people that were absolutely vicious towards Jay and his marriage. What some of these guys were saying about Jay and his marriage, what they were saying about Jay personally, that Jay doesn't have a spiritual life, that Jay doesn't attend church, that Jay is some of the worst things that I ever. You see that these things are retweeted and liked by Ruslan. I mean, like, come on. So at some point, Jay is going to goes like gloves off. It's like, okay, well, let's take a look in your background and see that it's not so squeaky clean as he likes to say. So it is. At the end of the day, Jay is a public figure. If other public figures call Jay out, Jay's going to call them out, and we need to let the public figures work that out. Now, if Jay is going around doxing a random dude that called into his stream and was like saying like, look at this guy, like, and then leaks his address and says this is where he works and look at how just nasty this guy is, and stuff, like, you'd have a stronger point. But we're talking about two public figures, one who puts on a mask of niceness, which is like Ruslan. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to be reasonable, bro. Yeah. Right? It's kind of like, that's what I would say. Now,
it seems like the point is like your point
sorry,
is.
Can I make my
yeah? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So what the guy in the chat said. So I posted on X. I said, well, so what the guy in the chat said is essentially what I'm getting at is, well, we're all hypocrites then in that same judgment on this, because both sides are just judging each other. So I think like what the saints do is to be humble and just to say like if somebody calls you out and says you're sinning, you should just be like, yeah, I'm sinning, even if you're not sinning, because that's what the saints do. That's humility. That's what I'm talking about.
But Jay says he's a sinner all the time. He says, dude, I struggle with being patient and things like that. He admits that. But that doesn't mean he's going to roll over and just be like, oh, yeah, you're right about all your criticisms, because they're not right about all their criticisms. And by granting them that, that gives them ammunition, because these people they don't care. If I slit my wrists and bled out in front of them, they would be like, okay. It's just like what they tried to do with me, bro. Jake, I don't know if you're familiar with this. What did JP Uncut do? He tried to basically guilt me and attack me and use a out of context clip where I lost my temper one time to try and cancel me, right? These people are not honest interlocutors. I got I'm sorry, guys, but I gotta take a call real quick. But anyways, I just wanted to add that.
Well, I gotta
that
go,
freaking-
Nicholai. You have a great rest
Jake,
of
if
your
I
night.
could make a point.
Yeah.
Have a good one, Rafa. Good talking with you.
Nice,
Jake,
thank
if
you.
I could make a point real quick to you.
Yeah.
The
I just
idea is,
mean in
I will say
general that all of
there's
us are
one.
hypocrites.
What'd you say?
I just mean a general principle is that all of us as Christians, like, we're hypocrites. Like, that's just
Yeah,
flat.
yeah,
that's
it's true. I mean, I'm a hypocrite myself in many ways. But the thing is, it's like the fundamental flaw I would say, I guess I'd point out is there isn't a problem with making wise judgment. Like you need to make judgment in your life in all aspects. And so when someone calls, I'll refer to an example. I watched a stream not that long ago. Someone called in to his stream and they say, not very Christian of you to talk that way, et cetera, et cetera. That's blatant piety signaling, and calling that out and making the judgment that they are piety signaling when it's quite obvious. There's nothing wrong with that intrinsically. I mean, it's the truth. And so coming on with no real argument other than saying, you're not being very Christ-like. It's like, are you even Orthodox? What is your definition of what being Christ-like is? And so there's nothing wrong in that sense with making that judgment. And yeah, of course, we're all hypocrites to an extent, but in that specific sense, there's nothing wrong with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess like I watched the Man of God movie, and I also how Christ was on trial. I think Christ, they were silent. When they were being criticized, when they were the saints, they were silent. So there's different saints that handle things different ways. Some saints talk a lot more, they speak out, and other saints are they're silent when they're being attacked or things like this.
Well, there's times for silence, there's times to not be silent, to say something. And so, yeah, I guess I'm a little bit confused on the direction you're taking in that sense. But yeah, my whole point is that there's nothing wrong with to make wise judgment, especially when someone is coming on blatantly piety signaling. I mean, that's a real thing, and it's quite annoying. So yeah, that's just my point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes.
I think guys, I think at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge that this is more complicated than we are. But I gotta get going, guys. Actually, so I will talk to you guys real later. I'm gonna wrap up the stream. So
have a good one, Nicholai. Have a good one, Jake. See you guys.
Thank you. See you. I don't know how to get off this.
Me neither. I guess I'll just